Chapter 28. Rongjin raised her head stiffly and looked at Chu Luiyue. Her face and hands were covered in blood, but her expression was calm and composed. The golden python's corpse was right behind her, but she could still smile. It was as if she was a demon from hell. Rongjin suddenly shuddered. At this moment she suddenly had a thought. This Chu Luiyue is not as easy to bully as she seems. Chu Luiyue extended her hand. Fourth princess, the golden python's pearl of essence is good for nourishing the body. Please. The pearl of essence was still covered in sticky red blood, and the sweet, fishy smell was almost nauseating. Rongjin's face was pale, but she had to accept Chu Luiyue's gift, in front of so many people. Just as she was in a dilemma, Rongjin suddenly spoke. Men, take good care of First Miss Chu's gift. As soon as he finished speaking, the guard at the side immediately stepped forward, intending to take the pill of essence. However, Chu Luiyue avoided the guard's hand and stared at Rongjin stubbornly. I originally thought that since my name was written on the title deed, it was mine and I could do whatever I wanted with it. However, I didn't expect the fourth princess to fly into a rage. Take this as my apology to your majesty and his highness the crown prince. Unfortunately, the fourth princess doesn't seem to like this gift. Or do you think it's not enough? Rongjin's heart skipped a beat. Although she was willful and spoiled, she was no fool. Chu Luiyue wanted her to accept it personally. If she didn't accept it, she would look very mean when she pressured Chu Luiyue earlier. There were so many people watching in the main hall, especially Imperial Father and Imperial Mother. It was fine if she damaged her reputation since she had always been like this. However, she couldn't afford to be criticized for implicating the royal family. She was able to please the Emperor and Empress largely because she knew her limits even though she often fooled around. Of course I'm satisfied. Rongjin gritted her teeth and stood up. She asked the guard to step back and personally picked up the pearl of essence. It was so sticky and disgusting that she almost threw it away. She originally thought that she would be able to teach this Chu Luiyue a lesson, but who would have thought that she would end up being checkmated instead? She stared at Chu Luiyue with a deadly gaze and gritted her teeth. Chu, Flo, you very well. This princess will remember you. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly and bowed. Thank you for your concern, princess. Rongjin's anger was stuck in her chest, and it was about to explode. Enough. Rongjin reminded her, and Rongjin could only suppress her anger. Rongjin glanced at her unhappily. Why aren't you going to clean it up? It's so dirty, what do you think it looks like? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone in the hall fell silent for a moment. The crown prince seemed to be talking about the fourth princess, but he was actually mocking Chu Luiyue. The fourth princess's hands were only stained with a little blood, but Chu Luiyue had just fought with the golden python, and now his hands were almost completely covered in blood. Wasn't this filthy referring to her? Whispered laughter came from all over the hall. Everyone's gazes fell on her with mockery and ridicule. In this brightly lit Ming Chui palace, everyone was bright and beautiful, clean and luxurious. She was the only one covered in blood. Because she had pulled out the hairpin, her hair was a little messy and scattered. She looked so disheveled. This was the scene that Rongxiu saw when he came in. A thin girl was standing in the middle of the hall. Beside her was a huge, damaged black cage and the mangled corpse of a golden python. The ground was covered in blood. The side of her face and hands were covered in scarlet blood. Her body was thin, but her back was straight like a pine tree on a cliff. No matter how strong the wind was, it would not bend. His gentle and clear eyes instantly turned dark and cold. But it was only for a moment before he regained his usual gentle expression. Prince Li has arrived. This voice broke the atmosphere in the hall. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Prince Li? The seventh prince? Why did he come? He had been staying in the Prince Li's residence with the excuse of being sick for a month after returning to the imperial capital. He had never attended any banquets. How come today? Chu Luiyue's heart jumped and he unconsciously looked back. A somewhat familiar figure appeared at the door of the hall. The octagonal glass palace lanterns hanging outside the door sprinkled a soft and warm light, reflecting his tall and slender figure. Chu Luiyue was stunned. It was midsummer, but he was still wearing the white fox cloak. He walked into the hall and his face gradually became clear. Although it was not the first time that Chu Luiyue saw this face, he still could not help but be dazzled. His sword-like eyebrows slanted to his temples, his nose was high and his phoenix eyes were deep. The lights were bright, but they were not as dazzling as the thousands of stars in his eyes. It seemed that with just one look, people would be willing to fall in love with him. Under the cloak, he was wearing a snow-white brocade robe with golden patterns embroidered on the cuffs and hem. As he walked, he looked like flowing moonlight. When he appeared, a sentence flashed in everyone's mind. There was a bandit gentleman who was like cutting, practicing, and polishing. He was really elegant, noble, and as gentle as jade. Some noble ladies blushed and stared at Rongxiu with sparkling eyes. So this is Prince Li. I didn't expect him to be so good-looking. The last time he came back to the imperial capital was 3 years ago. I didn't expect him to be so handsome when he came back. I'm afraid no one in the imperial capital can compare with him. Humph, he's just a sick man. What's there to look at? At most, he's just an idle prince. Everyone in the hall whispered. Chu Liwei looked more carefully and raised his eyebrows slightly. It was no wonder that those people said so. Rongxiu's lips were a little pale and he did look a little weak. At this moment, Rongxiu suddenly turned his eyes to her. Their eyes met. Chu Liwei narrowed her eyes. The next moment, Rongxiu walked directly to her and stopped in front of her. Everyone looked at her strangely. Chu Liwei was stunned. What was he going to do? Was he going to settle accounts with her because she broke into the Jade Wave Lake last time? Just as she was thinking about this, Rongxiu suddenly reached out and handed her a snow-white handkerchief. Chu Liwei suddenly understood what he meant. He was asking her to wipe the blood on her face. The scene when they first met suddenly appeared in her mind. He reached out and gently wiped the blood on her face with his fingers. He said, Miss Chu, you can't go back in such a sorry state with blood on your face. The situation this time was so similar. Chu Liwei took the handkerchief and bowed. Thank you, Prince Li. Chapter 29. Everyone had different expressions. His Highness Prince Li is... Rongxiu had already looked at Emperor Jiawen and bowed. Please forgive me for being late, father. Then he couldn't help but cough twice, looking like he had been sick for a long time. Emperor Jiawen shook his head as if he didn't agree. Your body has been weak since you were young. Now that you've just returned to the imperial city, you should take care of yourself. Why force yourself to come? Rongxiu smiled and glanced at Rongjin. How can I not come to my brother's birthday banquet? Rongjin scoffed in his heart, but he still smiled. Seventh brother, you're too polite. It's just a birthday banquet today. It's my fault if it affects your body. Quick, sit down. Rongxiu readily accepted the advice and sat down beside the third prince. Then he took off the cloak on his body and coughed a few times. It seemed like this torment had already made him very uncomfortable. The crowd looked at each other. This Prince Li really doesn't seem to be in good health. Some of the noble ladies looked disappointed. No matter how good-looking he is, he doesn't have much of a future with such a weak body. It's a pity that his face and aura are wasted. However, Rongxiu didn't seem to care about all this. After sitting down, he greeted the few people beside him and quietened down. He looked like a gentle and modest gentleman. Rongjin didn't have much of an impression of her seventh brother, but when she saw him hand Chu Liwei a handkerchief, she was instantly disgusted with him. She chuckled as her gaze moved between Rongxiu and Chu Liwei. Seventh brother, you seem to take care of Big Chu Missy a lot. Could it be that you guys already know each other? Rongxiu smiled lightly. I've only returned to the imperial city for less than a month, and it's my first time out today. How can I know anyone else? Rongjin was still suspicious. Then why are you helping her? Rongxiu paused for a moment and his smile faded. I just feel that it's not good to see blood today at my brother's birthday banquet. It's more. I came late. I don't know what happened earlier. Why did this place become like this? He poured himself a cup of tea and asked casually, if I remember correctly, first Miss Chu seems to be engaged? Who dares to treat the future crown princess like this at the crown prince's birthday banquet? Rongjin choked. Rongjin's face instantly turned even uglier. Weren't these words accusing him of allowing others to bully Chu Liwei? Seeing that the situation was not right, the empress immediately said warmly, Prince Li, you misunderstood. Rongjin felt like they were old friends at first sight, so she decided to give the golden python to her. I was just taming this golden python. Rongxiu seemed a little surprised. Tame the golden python? Wasn't first Miss Chu born with a damaged yuan meridian and unable to cultivate? Then how can he tame the golden python? His seemingly puzzled question made the empress and the others extremely embarrassed. Rongjin frowned. He felt that Rongxiu was purposely putting him on the spot. However, looking at his stunned expression, it seemed that he really did ask this question subconsciously. Besides, Rongxiu probably didn't know about the hunting ground. For a moment, Rongjin couldn't tell what he was thinking, so he didn't respond. Rongjin couldn't help but argue. She was the one who made a mistake first. She sold the title deed to brother Crown Prince's hunting ground to someone else. Such behavior is too much. Rong Xiao kept quiet for a while and rubbed the teacup. He rubbed his teacup and asked, since it's the Crown Prince's title deed, how could she sell it? There was dead silence in the main hall. Of course, everyone knew that Chu Liyue's name was on the title deed. However, as long as she had a brain, she should know that the Crown Prince valued this hunting ground very much. She sold it and made the Crown Prince pay a huge sum of money. The Crown Prince was furious. It was obvious that he wanted to deal with her today. Otherwise, how could a good-for-nothing from the Chu family be qualified to attend such a palace banquet? Everyone was well aware of this, and even the Empress had tacitly agreed. However, for someone of Prince Li's status to say it out loud, it made the Crown Prince look especially ugly. Chu Liyue used the white handkerchief to slowly wipe the blood off her hands and curved her lips. Since he wanted to help her, she wouldn't let go of this opportunity. Your Highness, you don't know. Even though this title deed is in my name, the Crown Prince and I aren't officially engaged yet. It's indeed my fault for selling the title deed like this. However, the fourth princess has already promised that as long as I tame this golden python, this matter will be written off. Fourth princess, right? Rong Zhen widened her eyes. When did I say that? Don't make irresponsible remarks. Chu Liyue looked at Emperor Jiawen in confusion. Your Majesty, isn't that what you meant? Emperor Jiawen didn't expect Chu Liyue to be so direct and was instantly embarrassed. He coughed and waved his hand. It's just a hunting ground. Since Lu Yu has already tamed the golden python according to the agreement, let's just forget about it. Zhen, don't mention it again in the future. This wasn't just a warning to Rong Zhen, it was also a warning to everyone present. Rong Zhen was angry, but she could only agree reluctantly when she saw Emperor Jiawen's serious gaze. Yes. Thank you, Your Majesty. However, Chu Liyue didn't intend to let it go just like that. She sighed softly and showed a forbearing expression. Your Majesty, Lu Yu knows that you personally bestowed this title deed back then, so he naturally treasures it. If he wasn't forced into a corner, Lu Yu would never sell this title deed. Emperor Jiawen was stunned. Why? Chapter 30. Rong Jin originally planned to use Chu Liyue's private sale of the hunting ground to make Emperor Jiawen hate Chu Liyue and dissolve their marriage agreement. However, he didn't expect things to turn out like this. Chu Liyue had his reasons for selling the title deed, and it was the result of him being bullied by the Chu family and himself. There was no way to explain this, so it was a waste of time to dwell on it. Besides, things had already reached a stalemate, and tonight's series of events were detrimental to the royal family's reputation. He knew that his father definitely didn't want to see this. Thus he had to cut the Gordian knot. He had to directly propose to dissolve the marriage agreement with Chu Liyue and draw a clear line between them. Even if others would criticize him, it was better than making his father unhappy with him. Emperor Jiawen's face darkened, and he didn't say anything. The hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Rong Jin decided to go all the way and continued. Father, I don't have any feelings for the Chu family's big missy. Even if we were to be together according to the marriage agreement, we wouldn't be happy. Why don't we dissolve the marriage agreement? This is a good thing for both of us. Chu Liyue looked down and hid the contempt in his eyes. This man really doesn't have any sense of responsibility, and he's so cunning. He clearly thinks that I'm a good-for-nothing and isn't worthy of being the crown prince, but he made it sound so righteous. During the many years that the engagement had existed, he had never mentioned the cancellation of the engagement. Instead, he only brought it up now. Chu Liyue naturally guessed why. He was the crown prince, but Chu Liyue was born a good-for-nothing. If he had raised this request earlier, he would definitely be mocked for being snobbish. Chu Liyue's life in the Chu family was very tough, but he didn't care and let things slide. Perhaps he had long felt that Chu Liyue wouldn't even live to become of marriageable age at 14. If she had died a long time ago, then he would have easily solved a huge problem. However, he didn't expect her to retaliate. Faced with today's situation, he had to bring up the marriage agreement. Emperor Jiawen's eyes were half closed, and the crowd could guess his thoughts. Have you thought it through? Said Emperor Jiawen after a while. Rong Xiao suddenly advised in a gentle voice. Crown Prince, First Miss Chu is actually quite a nice person. Didn't she just tame the golden python? Although she doesn't have any origin power in her body, it seems that she does have some strength. Rong Jin's face darkened. In fact, he was very shocked when Chu Liyue killed the golden python, but after careful observation he didn't detect any fluctuations of origin power from Chu Liyue. She was able to win mainly because she had found the golden python's weakness and attacked it with all her might. However, this kind of trick could only be used once or twice but not more than once. In the end, strength was the true source of confidence. Could it be that Chu Luiyue could suddenly recover after being missing a yuan meridian for more than 10 years? Thinking of this, Rong Jin said firmly, "I'm not going to give you a chance. I've thought it through." He was going to inherit the throne in the future. A person like Chu Luiyue would only be a stain on his record. "Of course, I'm willing to make up for the harm I've caused first, Miss Chu." As he spoke, Rong Jin looked at Chu Luiyue. "If you have any conditions, feel free to state them. I'll do my best to satisfy them." Is he planning to kick me out and set up a benevolent and righteous monument for himself? How could there be such a good thing in the world? Chu Luiyue lifted her chin, glanced at Rong Jin and pursed her lips. "Your Highness, you. Actually, I used to admire you." Rong Xiu, who had just raised his teacup, paused. Then, he calmly put down the teacup and glanced at the girl in front of him. Chu Luiyue suddenly felt a chill at the back of her head. Rong Jin frowned as he listened. Is Chu Luiyue unwilling to break off the engagement? That's right. No matter how stupid she is, she knows how precious the position of crown princess is. Just a moment ago, she purposely accused me of not caring about her and her father, but now she's saying that she's always admired me? She's indeed a greedy and insatiable person. The thoughts that Rong Jin had when he saw Chu Luiyue's face completely disappeared. He impatiently interrupted Chu Luiyue. "I said that you can state any conditions you want. You don't have to say anything else." Chu Luiyue's lips were pale, and her eyelashes trembled slightly. Then she smiled bitterly. "Your Highness, don't worry. I know that I'm not good enough for you, so I've never had any delusions. I know that you have someone else in your heart." As she spoke, her gaze seemed to drift toward Chu Xianmin. "I didn't even have the chance to go to your birthday banquets in the past. Third sister treated me well. She described everything vividly to me every time she came back. All these years I only saw you a few times. There were many things that third sister told me, so I knew a thing or two." She paused and lowered her head. Her voice was calm and light, but it made one's heart ache. "She knows what kind of tea you like to drink, what kind of books you like to read, and what kind of incense to make you sleep better. I don't know anything." Chu Xinmin's heart skipped a beat. That's not right. Why did these words sound so wrong? When the crowd in the hall heard this, they gradually figured it out and looked at Chu Xianmin. How is she telling Chu Luiyue this out of kindness? She's clearly showing off on purpose. She clearly knows that Chu Luiyue and the crown prince are engaged, yet she still says this in front of me. Also, it's fine that she knows what he likes to drink tea and read books, but she even knows about burning incense to sleep. TSK. I thought that this third missy was talented and gentle. I didn't expect her to be so bold. I was wondering why the crown prince took a fancy to her out of all the noble ladies in the imperial city. It turns out that she has such means. Even if Chu Luiyue is a good-for-nothing, she's still her elder sister. How can she treat her like this? What kind of woman can be with a man who's engaged to her elder sister? She looks quiet and gentle, but who knows what she's like behind the scenes. Chu Xinmin's face flushed red, and a fire seemed to be burning crazily in her chest. Chu Luiyue's words directly ruined her reputation. She stood up without thinking and reprimanded him in a shrill voice. "Tc. What nonsense are you talking about? I'll tear your mouth apart." This sharp insult clearly landed in everyone's ears. Once she said that, Chu Xianmin knew that something was wrong. Her shrewish attitude would definitely make the empress and the crown prince unhappy with her. She looked at Rong Jin in a panic and saw that his expression had indeed changed from shock to disgust. Chu Xinmin's heart sank harshly. However, Chu Luiyue took a deep breath as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. The crown prince and third missy are a match made in heaven. I'm willing to back out and cancel my engagement with the crown prince. I don't need any compensation. Emperor Jianghu finally spoke. "Liu, you're a good child. This matter is the crown prince's fault. How about this? I'll give you and your father 100,000 taels of gold. Also, I see that your martial arts are not bad. Why don't I find you a teacher from Tianlu Academy to teach you well?" It was the dream of many to be able to receive the guidance of Tianlu Academy's teachers. Chu Luiyue pondered for a moment. Chapter 31. What? Emperor Jianghu thought that he had heard wrongly, so he asked again subconsciously. "You want to enter Tianlu Academy?" Chu Luiyue nodded. "Yes. Tianlu Academy's recruitment period is in January every year, so I hope your majesty can give me a chance to take the exam." Emperor Jianghu looked at her with a complicated gaze. Chu Luiyue is really strange. If you say that she's stupid, she's very calm from the start and perfectly resolved all the problems she faced. If you say that she's smart, she took the initiative to give up the position of crown princess and even said that she wanted to enter Tianlu Academy. She must know that Tianlu Academy is the top academy in country Yaoqin, and one must be a top genius to enter. How can I do it when I don't even have a yuan meridian? This isn't difficult. But Tianlu Academy's assessment is very difficult. Are you sure you want to go? You have to know that those old men won't go easy on you on account of me. Chu Luiyue smiled slightly. Luyu naturally knows this. Luyu just wants a chance to take the exam. Emperor Jiawen stared at her and made sure that she wasn't joking before he finally sighed. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. But it's up to you whether you can get in or not. Chu Luiyue bent her knees and bowed. Thank you, Your Majesty, for granting my wish. Emperor Jiawen waved his hands. Okay, you must be tired today. Go home and rest first. Chuning, stay with her and take good care of her. Since the most important matter had been settled, Chu Luiyue didn't intend to stay here any longer, so she left with Chuning. The stiff and cold atmosphere in the palace gradually recovered a little when the duo's figures disappeared into the night sky outside the palace. However, so many things had happened tonight, so nobody dared to make a fuss. A good birthday banquet had become depressing and boring. Rong Jin closed his eyes and rubbed his glabella. His engagement with Chu Luiyue had finally been resolved. Logically speaking, it should have been easy, but his heart still felt as if it was being pressed down by a stone, making him feel extremely depressed. Everything had been planned out well, but somehow it ended up like this. After today, he didn't know what the people in the imperial capital would say about him. This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that imperial father was probably dissatisfied with him. Chu Xinmin's current mood was even worse than Rong Jin's. She sat in her seat, but her body felt numb. Her mind was blank and her expression kept changing. Chu Luiyue's words today had completely ruined her reputation. Who would care whether this was true or not? Who would have thought that not only would he not be able to deal with Chu Luiyue today, he would even get himself into trouble? More and more pairs of eyes fell on her. She felt as if there were daggers on her back and she just wanted to find a hole to hide in. Cough cough, Rong Xiu coughed again. Emperor Jiawen knitted his brows. Why are you coughing so badly? Rong Xiu waved his hands. I didn't, cough cough. Before he could finish his sentence, he started coughing again and his lips became even paler. Emperor Jiawen didn't allow him to refuse. Go back and rest now. It wasn't easy for you to recover at Mingyue Tianshan, but you're already like this after coming back for a month. What are you going to do in the future? If you fall sick again, I'll punish the people in your residence. Rong Xiu smiled helplessly and stood up. Yin Qing, who was behind him, immediately covered him with a cloak. I'll take my leave first. Then he looked at Rong Jin. Brother, I've already sent the birthday gift to your residence. I can't accompany you today. I'll apologize another day. Rong Jin forced a smile. Seventh brother, you're too polite. Your health is more important. Rong Xiu then turned around and left. After he left, Rong Jiu also said that he had military matters to settle and left. The originally not harmonious atmosphere became even more awkward and cold because of the departure of one or two people. Before this, who would have thought that the usually glorious crown prince's birthday banquet would end up like this? Rong Xiu walked out of the palace and saw two people standing beside princely mansion's horse carriage. They were Chuning and Chu Luiyue. He raised his brows slightly and walked over. Officer Chu, Big Chu Missy, why are you here? However, Chuning cupped his fists and bowed seriously. Thank you for your help, Prince Li. My daughter and I will definitely remember your kindness. Rong Xiu's eyes sparkled. Officer Chu, you're too polite. I didn't help much today. Chuning shook his head. Other than helping us out today, you also saved my daughter's life the last time. If it weren't for you, we really wouldn't know. If you need anything in the future, please let us know. The last time? Saved her life? Rong Xiu glanced at Chu Luiyue and met the girl's warning glare. Her black eyes were bright and dazzling. The corners of his lips curved, and even the corners of his eyes were tinged with a hint of a smile. Officer Chu, there's no need to be like this. That's nothing. It's not worth mentioning. It's probably because she and this prince hit it off. Chu Luiyue secretly sighed in relief. She had lied to Chuning that Rong Xiu had saved her, but she didn't expect him to remember it. Today, Rong Xiu happened to be here, so he decided to wait here and thank him in person. No matter how she tried to persuade him, it was useless. In the end, she could only wait here with him. Fortunately, they didn't have to wait for too long. Moreover, this guy was very cooperative. It's already late. Why don't this prince send you back? Chu Luiyue wanted to refuse. No need. Who knew what he was planning in his heart? There was no free lunch in this world. The more he helped her, the more wary she became. On the surface, this man was as gentle as jade and modest as a gentleman. However, Chu Luiyue didn't think so. She couldn't see through his eyes, nor could she understand his thoughts. Her intuition told her that this was a very dangerous man. It was best to stay as far away from this kind of person as possible. Chu Ning looked at her disapprovingly. Don't be rude to His Highness Prince Li. Chu Luiyue wrinkled her nose. Chu Ning also felt that this was inappropriate, but before she could say anything, Rong Xiu continued. In any case, this prince is going back in the same direction, so I can give you a ride. Eldest Miss Chu should be very tired today. Chu Ning's words of refusal were stuck in his throat. Yer had a life-and-death battle with that golden python, so he was indeed very worried about whether she was injured. After hesitating for a moment, he finally said, Then I'll have to trouble Your Highness Prince Li, please? The carriage of the Prince Li's residence was very spacious and comfortable. It was more than enough for the three of them to sit down. Chu Luiyue sat next to Chu Ning facing Rong Xiu. Chu Luiyue was very vigilant at first, but Rong Xiu closed his eyes as if he was resting after getting on the carriage. He sat there quietly with those deep eyes that seemed to be able to suck out souls. His jade-like face was tranquil and gentle under the warm light. Chu Luiyue glanced at him and then looked away. They didn't speak for the rest of the journey until they arrived at the Chu estate. Chu Ning was the first to jump off the carriage. Chu Luiyue was about to leave, but she was suddenly pulled back by a hand. It was slightly cold to the touch, and a subtle feeling seemed to spread from her skin to the bottom of her heart. Chu Luiyue was about to make a move when an extremely soft and gentle voice entered her ears. Remember to return the things to me. Chu Luiyue was stunned. She looked back, but Rong Xiu had already let go of her hand and closed his eyes again as if nothing had happened. She pursed her lips. Chapter 32. Chu Luiyue lifted the curtain and got off the carriage with Chu Ning. It was rare for Rong Xiu to be dazed. Then he slowly curved his lips and laughed softly. She was indeed the first person to say that he was petty. Yan Qing was waiting respectfully outside the carriage. Hearing his master's rare laughter, he was shocked. What's going on? Although Master looked gentle, in fact he did not show his emotions on his face. He rarely smiled like this. Just now what did he do? Did his master really have feelings for that person from the Chu family? Let's go back. Rong Xiu's voice was filled with joy. Yes. Yan Qing immediately drove the carriage forward. The Prince Li's mansion was not far from the Chu family. It only took them an hour to reach the mansion. Rong Xiu returned to his residence. Umo, another bodyguard who had been waiting for a long time, immediately came forward and said respectfully, Your Highness, everything has been arranged. Rong Xiu nodded, walked to the table and put something down. Umo took a look and was shocked. It was a teacup. The design was elegant and the carving was exquisite. There was a faint golden circle around it. This was obviously something used in the palace. But the next moment, Umo saw the teacup shatter silently. In the blink of an eye, it turned into powder. Umo's heart skipped a beat. He did not dare to ask again. He could only look at Yan Qing for help. Master rarely gets angry like this. What's going on? But his master did not look angry. He even seemed to be in a good mood. Yan Qing looked down and did not say anything. What should he say? Should he say that it was because of that person from the Chu family? Rong Xiu took off his cloak. Only then did Umo notice that there were traces of blood on his hand. He immediately cried out in shock. Your Highness, you're injured. Didn't His Highness attend the Crown Prince's birthday banquet? How could he be injured? Rong Xiu looked down and saw that his hand was stained with blood. It was from her hand. It seemed that she did not wipe it clean. Her face and body were covered in blood. How could a handkerchief wipe them clean? Rong Xiu's eyes turned cold. What has Rong Zhen been doing recently? Umo didn't expect him to suddenly ask this question. After thinking for a moment, he immediately replied, The fourth princess seems to want to change her contracted magical beast recently. She likes to go to the hunting ground. What an interesting interest. Rong Xiu was silent for a while. His slender fingers lightly knocked on the table twice as he lightly said, Then let her have fun. His tone was calm, but Umo could hear a trace of cold killing intent. Yes. Umo could not help but sigh inwardly. It was said that the fourth princess had a rude and unreasonable personality and had always been lawless. However, her master had always been too lazy to pay attention to such people. She didn't know what she had done to provoke her master's murderous intent. Your Highness, do you want to take a bath and rest now? The Rongxiao's fingertips gently caressed it as if there was a soft and warm touch. Yes. Tell them that this king has caught a cold today and is resting in bed. I won't see anyone. Yes. Yin Qing responded and immediately left. At the door, the Rongxiao added another sentence. If she comes, you must inform me immediately. Even though she was mentally prepared, Yin Qing was still shocked. She barely controlled her expression. Yes, Your Highness. Umo tactfully left and quickly chased after Yin Qing after exiting the door. What's going on? Who was Master talking about just now? Yin Qing remained silent. After being chased by Umo for a long time, she finally said, You'll know when she comes. Umo was confused. What on earth happened that night? That was not all that had happened that night. To a certain person, it was a night where even the night breeze was sweet. However, it was not so wonderful for others. After the banquet ended, First Elder and the rest hurried back to the Chu family. It was already very late at night, but Chu Xianmin did not return to her room to rest. Instead, she was repeatedly interrogated by First Elder and the rest. The doors and windows of the room were tightly shut. First Elder sat at the head of the table while Chu Yan and Lu Yao sat below. Chu Xianmin stood in the middle. The few people's gazes were like sharp knives that scraped across Chu Xianmin's body. What Chu Luiyue said today, was it true? Asked First Elder in a deep voice. Chu Xianmin was angry and embarrassed. Of course it's false. Why would I do such a thing? That B*TCH is slandering me? Chu Yan's face was green the whole way. At this point he could not hold it in anymore and slammed the table. You're still lying. If you didn't say it, how would Chu Luiyue know that the crown prince needs to light incense when he sleeps? Only close people would know about this kind of thing. Chu Xianmin was so frightened that she shivered and immediately felt guilty. I really didn't. I just, coincidentally went to see the crown prince once. He was resting and I smelled the incense. Looking at her expression, how could these people, who were used to seeing the wind and waves, not be able to see through her? Even if the two of them did not go to the last step, they probably did something that they should not have done. Chu Yin closed his eyes. Do you know that this matter will spread throughout the entire imperial city tomorrow? Your reputation will be completely ruined. Also, you actually slandered His Majesty in front of him like a shrew today. Why would the crown prince still choose you as his consort? Chu Xianmin was suddenly speechless. Lu Yao, who was at the side, suddenly spoke. Since the news can't be sealed, then don't. The few of them looked at her in shock. Lu Yao's eyes flickered. Now that this matter can't be cleared, let's just go with the flow. If everyone knows that you're already the crown prince's woman, then he will definitely not abandon you. Chu Xianmin felt wronged. But if that's the case, the position of the first consort is, you'll be the first consort sooner or later once you enter Crown Prince Mansion. What else is so important? Lu Yao did not seem to care. Your only chance now is to become stronger. As long as you're strong enough, you can shut everyone's mouths. The Academy's assessment is coming soon. You must get first place, understand? Chu Xianmin bit her lip. Now this was the only way. Got it? After Chu Luiyue went back, she took a hot shower and changed into a clean set of clothes before she felt more comfortable. Just as she was tidying her clothes, the handkerchief suddenly fell to the ground. She picked up the handkerchief. The handkerchief, which was originally as white as snow, was now stained with blood. Looked terrible. Thinking of Rongxiao's words, she snorted softly and drew water to wash the handkerchief clean again. Chapter 33. The next day, news of what happened at the Crown Prince's birthday banquet quickly spread throughout the imperial city. Everyone was talking about it. Too many things had happened that night, but the most talked about person was Chu Xianmin. She had been having an affair with the crown prince for a long time. They thought that she was a pure and innocent genius, but they did not expect her to be such a shameless person. Even though the Xianhu mainland respected the strong, they were still very conservative when it came to such matters. Chu Xianmin was still a girl and had not even reached marriageable age. Her reputation was completely ruined after such a thing was exposed. Rong Jin's annulment of his engagement with Chu Luiyue was within everyone's expectations, so they were more interested in Chu Xianmin's matter. Of course, many people were shocked when Chu Luiyue said that she wanted to enter Tianlu Academy. However, no one cared about it after the momentary shock. How could a good-for-nothing with a broken Yuan meridian enter Tianlu Academy? Everyone thought that she was dreaming. Some people even suspected that she was traumatized by the annulment of her engagement and that her brain was not normal. Most people's thoughts were still on the crown prince, Rong Jin. Now that the position of the crown princess was empty, and Chu Xianmin, who had always been the most competitive candidate, had such a scandal, it was impossible for her to become the crown princess. Hence, many noble ladies in the imperial city were tempted to make a move. Chu Luiyue woke up early in the morning and practiced in the yard as usual. She only stopped when she was completely exhausted. At this time the sky was only slightly bright. You are. Chu Ning's voice came from behind. Chu Luiyue turned around and saw Chu Ning standing in the yard, looking at her lovingly. She had already sensed that Chu Ning was here, so she was not surprised. Chu Ning had long been used to her crazy practice every day, but he had never stopped her. He knew that this was what she wanted to do, so he chose to support her silently. "Father, aren't you going to the shop today?" asked Chu Luiyue strangely. Her eyes quickly scanned Chu Ning's body and found that he was a little different today. He had changed into a navy blue robe with a white belt around his waist. His hair was neatly tied up, and his beard had clearly been shaved. There was still a faint green stubble on his chin. Today's Chu Ning had clearly tidied herself up meticulously. She looked much younger. Most importantly, his expression was no longer as gloomy and dispirited as before. Instead, his eyes were bright and his entire person was in high spirits, as if he had been reborn. Chu Luiyue had already guessed something. Today, father has something important to do. Chu Ning looked calm, but there was a hint of excitement in her eyes. Chu Luiyue nodded. From the looks of it, Chu Ning was finally roused. Chapter 34. Chu Luiyue chased after the person who bumped into her and left the downtown area very quickly. It wasn't until they reached a dead end that the man who was running away finally stopped. Chu Luiyue crossed her arms. "Give me back my things." The man turned around and looked at her fiercely. He sneered and weighed the pouch that he had snatched from Chu Luiyue. "If you want it, come and get it yourself." Chu Luiyue's gaze swept across the flat pouch inside. "Are you so sure that I have money on me?" The man's expression froze and he suddenly thought of something. He quickly tore open the pouch, but other than a white handkerchief, there was no money at all. A trace of anger flashed across his face, but it disappeared very quickly. He looked up at Chu Luiyue with a sinister smile. "You don't really think that I'm here for your money, do you?" As he said that, he suddenly pulled out a dagger from his waist. His killing intent was awe-inspiring. Chu Luiyue didn't panic at all and revealed a meaningful smile. The man was stunned for a moment before he suddenly reacted. There was no money in the pouch. Even if it was stolen, Chu Luiyue could just ignore it, but she still followed him. She followed him on purpose. "With your mediocre skills, it's too whimsical of you to think that you can steal something from me. But since you want me to come, I'll come." Chu Luiyue's words made the man's expression turn even uglier. "You're courting death." The man roared and the dagger in his hand quickly stabbed towards Chu Luiyue. Rank 4 warrior. The moment he made his move, Chu Luiyue quickly judged his strength. She squinted her eyes. It seemed that the mysterious disappearance of Song Lian and the other two had caused the mastermind to be wary of her. This time they actually sent a rank 4 warrior to kill her. Chu Luiyue staggered her feet and quickly took half a step back. Her right leg bent slightly and with a tap of her toes, she suddenly exerted her strength. Her seemingly weak and slender body was actually filled with astonishing toughness and explosive power as she rushed out in an instant. Facing a rank 4 warrior, she actually chose to face him head-on. Chu Luiyue directly kicked the man's wrist. The man's hand quickly turned and he intended to use the dagger to pierce Chu Luiyue's leg. Clang! A crisp sound was heard. The man only felt a strong impact from Chu Luiyue's leg, causing his hand to go numb. His dagger slid out, leaving behind a string of dazzling sparks. What was going on? He's Estes leg. Made. Before he could figure out why Luiyue had such a piece of equipment, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his wrist. Chi-chi. The sharp weapon scraped across his wrist and instantly cut off a layer of flesh. Ah! He screamed in pain and quickly retreated. Looking down, his entire forearm was already dripping with blood. Chu Luiyue landed on the ground and saw the situation. She shook her head in dissatisfaction. It's still not sharp enough. She already knew that she was surrounded on all sides, so she was very careful with her words and actions. Her strength had not recovered yet, so she strengthened her combat power in other aspects. She had specially asked Chu Ning for the dagger hidden in the sole of her shoe. If it had been successful, this man's entire wrist should have been cut off. It was a pity that the material used to make the dagger was not good, so she could only make do with it. Seeing her leisurely look, the injured man was angry and annoyed. No matter what, he was still a rank 4 warrior, but he actually suffered a loss in the hands of a useless person like Chu Luiyue. The higher-ups had instructed him to think of a way to take down Chu Luiyue today. No matter what, he could not fail. Thinking of this, his eyes flashed and he sneered, "The rumored cowardly and incompetent Miss Chu is actually such a ruthless person. Unfortunately, no matter how many tricks you have, it's all futile in front of true strength." He shouted and threw the dagger out. His hands crossed in front of him and he began to circulate the force in his body. Then, a green wind blade quickly condensed around his body. An extremely oppressive aura surged out from his body. The narrow alley became even more cramped because of the appearance of this aura. "Clear wind slash." The man shouted and the green wind blade slashed towards Chu Luiyue. Chi la. On the bluestone pavement, a clear and visible white scratch mark appeared. It extended straight towards Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue's hair flew up and her ears were filled with the whistling sound of the wind. The strong oppressive aura made her mind buzz and even her movements became much slower. Rank 4 warriors were the dividing line for cultivators. Although rank 3 warriors could absorb the heaven and earth force, it was only to strengthen their bodies and increase their physical strength. Only when a rank 4 warrior broke through would they be able to circulate the accumulated force in their body and unleash powerful attacks. No matter if it was the strength or speed of the attack, it was not something a rank 3 warrior could compare to. This clear wind slash had already closed in on Chu Luiyue's face in the blink of an eye. Chu Luiyue even felt a dull pain between her eyebrows. Her eyes were fixed on the green wind blade as her muscles tightened and she held her breath in anticipation. Previously, she was able to win against Song Lian and the rest with her useless body mainly because her eyesight and battle experience were extremely strong. The difference between a normal person and a rank 3 warrior could be made up for by relying on these. But a rank 4 warrior was different. The other party could circulate the force to attack and it was difficult for her to win. Although her Yuan meridian had recovered, she had not accumulated much force and could not compete with the other party in this aspect. She could only resort to trickery. Swish. The green wind blade flew over quickly. Chu Luiyue's waist suddenly leaned back. Her body was almost parallel to the ground. In the next moment, she supported herself with one hand on the ground and borrowed the force to flip over and narrowly avoided the attack. Gotcha. The green wind blade slammed into the ground behind her, smashing open a crack. "You know how to dodge." The man was surprised when he saw this and the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. "No wonder Song Lian and the rest also fell into your hands." A dark light flashed across Chu Luiyue's eyes. As expected, she had not gone to find them and the other party had already sent himself to her door. Her gaze swept past the man quickly. "Looks like your master is Song Lian's true backer." The man was stunned and laughed as if he had heard a joke. "You're smart. Unfortunately, the smarter you are, the more you have to die." Chu Luiyue was about to say a few more words when she suddenly felt a chill behind her head. She didn't even think about it as she flew forward. Bang! The place where she was previously standing exploded into a deep pit. The strong aftershock caused the blood in her chest to churn. She immediately looked up and saw that the man who shouted, "Catch the thief," was already blocking the entrance of the alley. The most important thing was that he was also a rank 4 warrior. Die. The two of them looked at each other and attacked Chu Luiyue at the same time. Ishue, SSSS backest, SSSS. T. Est. Shue had always had a strong desire to live. Chu Luiyue burst out laughing. Looking at Shue's awkward expression, she could roughly guess what Shue was thinking. Both the master and servant were probably involved in this matter. This Rongxiu. What exactly is he thinking? This question quickly flashed through Chu Luiyue's mind, but he didn't show it on his face. Instead, he looked at the two people again. Right now, he had to solve the most important problem first. The two of them looked at each other and saw the panic in each other's eyes. Now that Chu Luiyue had the help of the 7th stage Heavenly Lion, it was no longer something they could deal with. Go. Without hesitation, the two of them got up and fled in 2 different directions. Chu Luiyue smirked. Shue snorted, and then her figure suddenly vanished. In the next moment, it appeared in front of one of the men. It quickly raised its claws and slapped the man's chest. Whoosh. His clothes were instantly torn apart, and blood splattered everywhere as he flew out. Bang. He was heavily smashed onto the ground by the powerful impact. A long trail of blood was drawn out. It only stopped when he hit the wall. The other man's fate wasn't any better. He didn't even manage to escape out of the alley before he was thrown out by Shue. He crashed beside the first man. How strong was the 7th stage Heavenly Lion? These 2 4th stage warriors didn't even have the chance to struggle and escape in Shue's hands. They were defeated. In a blink of an eye, the situation was reversed. Chu Luiwei walked in front of the two men and looked down at them. "Speak, who is your master?" The two men were on the verge of death, but they refused to say a word. Chu Luiwei crossed her arms and smiled faintly. "Unwilling to say? Then why don't I guess? You are the Crown Prince's men." The two men were shocked and looked at her subconsciously. But in the next moment they realized something and hurriedly looked away. However, this reaction was enough. "Song Lian's real background is Xuanhuan, right? What are you talking about? We don't understand." The two men weren't dumb and they forcefully denied it. Chu Luiwei didn't care at all. This matter was actually very easy to guess. There were only a few people who hated her and wanted her to die completely outside. There were even fewer people who could send a stage 4 warrior to deal with her. To Rong Jin, killing her 10 times wasn't enough to appease his hatred due to the new and old grudges. It was a pity that this person wasn't very smart. Back then he lost Song Lian, but he didn't know how to be more careful and sent 2 people to kill her so carelessly. It doesn't matter if you don't admit it. Chu Luiwei didn't even care about the two of them as she turned to look at Xue Xue. "Xue Xue, I need to trouble you with something. Take these two away." Chapter 36. He won't see anyone. Chu Luiwei heard this clearly. She immediately stopped in her tracks and raised her eyebrows. Yuemo was also stunned when he heard this. "You won't see anyone?" But the master had clearly said that he would not see anyone else. Only First Miss Chu was to be reported to him immediately. That was why he dared to bring her in directly. Why, did master say that he wouldn't see her? He gave Yanqing a look. What's going on? Yanqing also felt bitter. How would I know? He saw with his own eyes that master had waited for First Miss Chu the entire day. It was impossible for him not to see her. Wasn't he still angry that First Miss Chu didn't come? Now that she finally came, why wasn't master happy? Instead, he didn't even want to see her. "Master, this." First Miss Chu. Rong Xiu looked up and quietly glanced at Yanqing. Yanqing immediately swallowed the words in his throat. He obediently lowered his head again and stood aside obediently. Rong Xiu retracted his gaze and turned a page. The night wind blew. He clenched his fist and coughed a few times. However, that pair of eyes never looked at Chu Luiwei from the start to the end. Chu Luiwei didn't delay and looked at Yuemo. "Since your master isn't feeling well, I won't disturb him. Please pass on this item and thank your master for his help on my behalf." As she spoke, she handed over the handkerchief in her pouch. Yumo's eyelids twitched when he saw the handkerchief. "Isn't this master's personal handkerchief? Usually, master treasures this handkerchief very much and almost never leaves his side. But why is it with Chu Luiwei now?" He didn't enter the palace that day and naturally didn't know the inside story. Master was actually willing to give this to Chu Luiwei? First Miss Chu, this. Yuemo hesitated and wanted to take it but suddenly felt cold all over. He shuddered and immediately refused with righteous indignation. "First Miss Chu, this belongs to master. It's better that you give it to him personally." "Chu Luiwei, isn't it just a handkerchief? Why did he make it so grand?" She also wanted to give it to him. Otherwise she wouldn't have come. But now that Rong Xiu said that he didn't want to see him, what could she do? She looked in that direction again. Through the half-open door, she could see the tall figure reclining on the bed. The warm light outlined his peerless side profile, as if it had been meticulously carved by the heavens, perfect and flawless. His eyes drooped slightly and his thin lips pursed slightly. Rong Xiu was angry? Why was he angry? After thinking for a while, Chu Luiwei still couldn't understand what he was thinking. Thus, she decided not to dwell on it and directly looked at Rong Xiu. "Esgiftius. Prince, T-test owe you anything. Thank you for your help the previous few times, but I don't like owing favors. Besides, our paths are different. To avoid trouble, let's try not to interact with each other." Then she didn't look at Rong Xiu's reaction and wanted to shove the handkerchief to Yuemo. Rong Xiu chuckled silently. "I really don't know what to do with this person." He finally looked up, and his gaze landed on Chu Luiwei, surrounding her invisibly. "No, you still owe me 2 favors today." Chu Luiwei's heart skipped a beat. "First, Xue Xue saved you." His tone was as gentle and light as usual, but it was colder than the moonlight. "Second, the person who killed you today wasn't the Crown Prince's man." Chu Luiwei's eyes turned cold. On this day the imperial city seemed peaceful, but it was turbulent in the dark. Crown Prince Mansion. Study room. Only Rong Jin and another gray-robed elder were in the room. "Are you sure that a 7th-grade fiend appeared in the imperial city? But there seems to be no news." Rong Jin asked suspiciously. "That 7th-grade fiend only appeared for a short while. Normal people can't detect it, but I've already checked. There are indeed traces of a 7th grade fiend fighting in 8 Corners Alley in the northwest of the Imperial City. The elder stroked his beard with certainty. Besides, I'm sure that it's not just any fiend that exists in the Imperial City. It's definitely new. Also, there's a high chance that it has an owner. Rong Jin knitted his brows tightly. But there are only a handful of people in the Imperial City who can tame a 7th grade fiend. Who could it be? The elder shook his head. Don't underestimate anyone in the Imperial City. The other party isn't easy to deal with since they have a 7th grade fiend. If the other party is coming for you, you have to be even more careful. The elder shook his head. Even though you're the crown prince now, there are still many people coveting that position. Your marriage agreement with Chu Luiyue is too ugly, and His Majesty is very unhappy with you. You can't create any more trouble at this time. At the mention of this, Rong Jin was furious. It's all Chu Luiyue's fault. She's just a good-for-nothing. There's nothing to be afraid of. Keep a low profile during this period of time and wait for the storm to blow over. The most important thing is to increase your abilities and let His Majesty see your abilities. Rong Jin took a deep breath and nodded. You're right. I'll remember your teachings. This year is your last year at Tianlu Academy. You have to grab that opportunity. Do you understand? Okay. The news of a 7th grade fiend appearing in the Imperial City spread like wildfire and quickly spread among the aristocratic families. Rong Jin naturally knew about it as well. This made her eager to give it a try. The fiends from before were not of high levels. Now that a rare 7th grade fiend had finally appeared, she definitely had to go and take a look. If she could capture it and make it her fiend, how awesome would that be? Hence, she also started to send people to investigate the 7th grade fiend's tracks. Chapter 37. Chu Luiyue quickly scanned his surroundings. The corners of his lips curled up slightly as he revealed a playful smile. Tianlu Academy was the top academy in the entire country Yaochen. Hence, its status was respected. Even in a place like the Imperial City, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, it still occupied a large area. The door made of lapis lazuli was simple and grand. A black crystal tablet stood in front of the door. It was shaped like a long sword that had fallen from the sky and pierced the ground. The words Tianlu Academy were engraved in gold on it. Just these alone were priceless, let alone the things inside the academy. In front of the door was a spacious square made of white jade. That was Tianlu Academy's territory. At the same time, it was the place they used to recruit students. However, Chu Luiyue was here to take the exam, and there was nothing in the square. There was only a small table in front of the middle-aged man. There were 3 black wooden boxes on the table. Clearly they represented the 3 tests. It seemed like they did not intend to give Chu Luiyue a chance to take the exam in the square officially. Chu Luiyue bowed and asked warmly, "Thank you." "Thank you, senior." "Liu, may I know your name?" The middle-aged man was originally very displeased with Chu Luiyue. He was a good-for-nothing, yet he wanted to take the exam for Tianlu Academy. Was he dreaming? Since His Majesty had spoken, they could not reject him. However, who did not know that they had worked hard for nothing? He originally had something important to do today, but he was sent to take Chu Luiyue's exam at the last minute. He was depressed and did not treat Chu Luiyue well. He had even prepared the exam items hastily. Seeing how polite Chu Luiyue was, he sneered in his heart. Without ability, everything else was in vain. It was useless to curry favor with him. Bai Qin. Chu Luiyue smiled and pointed at the square not far away. "Senior, Liu heard that Tianlu Academy's exams are held in the square, but it doesn't seem to be open today. Can you make it convenient for us?" Bai Qin looked at her mockingly as if he had heard a joke. "Do you know that the reason why the other examinees have their exams in the public square is because there will be all sorts of fights during their exams? And the fluctuations produced by this would all be calmed by the array formation on the square. As for you, do you even need it?" When the surrounding people heard this, they burst into laughter. Exactly. Did she even need it? Ah. Tianlu Academy only recruits the best geniuses. She doesn't even have a complete Yuan meridian, yet she wants to enter? This is really embarrassing. Can't you see that he doesn't want to talk to her? I'm only giving her a chance because of His Majesty. From now on, I'm afraid the imperial capital will have another joke, ha. Chu Luiyue didn't seem to hear these taunts. His expression didn't even change. She looked at Bai Qin and asked stubbornly, "Then, what will it take for you to open the square?" Bai Qin sized her up from head to toe and couldn't detect any origin power fluctuations from her body. He couldn't help but exclaim softly, "That's right." He couldn't help but exclaim, You just need to open one of these 3 black wooden boxes. This black wooden box was made of special black spiritual sandalwood and was extremely heavy. According to the differences in the 3 exams, the black wooden box had different seals. Ordinary people couldn't open it at all. If the examinees wanted to get the exam questions, they had to open the black wooden box themselves. And this was the first stage of the exam. Chu Luiyue nodded and didn't say anything else. She took a step forward and directly reached for the black wooden box on the far left. Everyone's faces more or less revealed an excited expression as if they were waiting to see a joke. That slender and fair hand landed on the black wooden box. Bai Qin pursed his lips. You overestimate yourself. Click. Suddenly, a faint sound could be heard. That black wooden box was easily opened by Chu Luiyue. In an instant, the air seemed to freeze. Bai Qin's expression froze. How could this be? Chu Luiyue had already picked up a piece of paper from the black wooden box. You'll pass if you become a Stage 3 warrior. The requirement to become a Stage 3 warrior seemed simple, but Tianlu Academy only recruited students below the age of 20. To be able to become a Stage 3 warrior at such a young age was undoubtedly a genius. Bai Qin didn't have time to think about how Chu Luiyue opened the black wooden box. When he saw the exam question she chose, he instantly laughed out loud. Warrior exam. He looked down at Chu Luiyue from above. You'll pass if you reach the Stage 3 warrior realm. But I remember that you lack a Yuan meridian and can't even be considered a warrior, right? The crowd immediately roared with laughter. To others there might be hope, but Chu Luiyue? She might not be able to do it in her lifetime. Some people even hissed. Get lost. You're embarrassing yourself. Ah. Bai Qin shook his head and was about to keep the item. Wait. Chu Luiyue suddenly said, Senior Bai Qin, if my ability reaches the Stage 3 warrior realm, will I pass? What? Bai Qin suspected that he had heard wrongly. Chu Luiyue asked again. If I can defeat a Stage 3 warrior, will you say that I've won? Bai Qin hesitated for a moment before nodding. Of course. But, can you do it? Chu Luiyue's lips curled up slightly. I'll give it a try. Bai Qin made up his mind and waved his long sleeves. Okay. I'll suppress my ability to a Stage 3 warrior. If you can take 3 moves from me, you'll pass. Then he waved his long sleeves and a slight buzzing sound came from the square. Then he suddenly raised his chi and leaped into the air. Like a soaring eagle, he flew over hundreds of feet in an instant and landed precisely in the middle of the square. Chu Luiyue walked over step by step and stood in front of Bai Qin. Senior, please enlighten me. Bai Qin didn't think much of it. Without another word, he changed his palm into a fist and attacked Chu Luiyue. Whoosh. His speed was extremely fast and in the blink of an eye he was already in front of Chu Luiyue. The tyrannical wind from his fist whistled as a terrifying force broke through the air. In the blink of an eye, his fist was only an arm's length away from Chu Luiyue. By suppressing his ability to a Stage 3 warrior realm, he didn't need to use any martial techniques. He could just use his physical strength to crush Chu Luiyue. With this punch, everything would end. Chu Luiyue's eyes reflected the reflection of the iron fist that was flying towards her. She stood there with her back straight, and in the eyes of outsiders, she seemed to have been scared silly. In Bai Qin's eyes it was the same. But just when he thought that this attack would definitely hit, the girl in front of him suddenly disappeared. It was unknown how Chu Luiyue's figure moved, but she actually swiftly and skillfully avoided the punch. Bai Qin was instantly stunned when he saw the empty space in front of him. The next moment he suddenly felt a chill down his spine. A biting cold murderous intent enveloped him. Ha! He subconsciously circulated his force and turned around to attack. Thunder rush. Rumble. A faint blue fireball suddenly exploded. But there was no one there. Bai Qin was shocked and looked to his side in realization. As expected, he saw Chu Luiyue, who was unharmed. Chu Luiyue looked at him with a smile. Senior Bai Qin, you seem to have used more than the power of a Stage 3 warrior, right? Chapter 38. Everyone looked at each other and took a while to react to what had just happened. When Bai Qin was testing Chu Luiyue, he actually used a skill that could only be used by a Stage 3 warrior and above. This also meant that, as Chu Luiyue had said, he did not suppress his strength to that of a Stage 3 warrior. What was going on? Bai Qin's face flushed red and he felt extremely embarrassed. He originally thought that this move would be able to get rid of Chu Luiyue directly, but he did not expect that he did not control it well and ruin the test. It was really embarrassing to make such a low-level mistake in front of so many people. But, what exactly happened just now? Bai Qin frowned and stared intently at Chu Luiyue. He was a stage 5 warrior and was considered one of the strongest warriors in the entire country Yaoqian. He had tested many students in the past and had never made such a mistake. He remembered very clearly that he had sensed a frightening murderous intent from Chu Liyue's body earlier, which was why he had instinctively used his true abilities. However, Chu Liyue was a good-for-nothing. How could she cause such a strong pressure and threat to him? Bai Qin could not understand. He looked at Chu Liyue with suspicion as though he wanted to burn a hole in her body. Senior Bai Qin, you said that as long as I can withstand 3 moves from you, I will pass. However, your first move surpassed the strength of a stage 3 warrior. How will this be counted? Chu Liyue asked calmly as though what had just happened did not affect her at all. This question made Bai Qin's expression turn even uglier. Although he was indignant, he had to admit that Chu Liyue was able to force him to use his strength. To a certain extent, this was enough to prove something. There was definitely something fishy about this young girl. There was a short moment of silence outside the venue. After a moment, Bai Qin said in a deep voice, "If you can take this move of mine head-on, I will immediately consider you as a qualified candidate." Then he moved quickly and charged toward Chu Liyue again. The corners of Chu Liyue's mouth twitched ever so slightly. Not only did Bai Qin ask her to deal with his moves, he even asked her to face them head-on. Anyone would know that this was a little too much. Even if he suppressed his strength to that of a rank 3 warrior, he was still a rank 5 warrior and the power he displayed was stronger than most rank 3 warriors. Even a true rank 3 warrior might not be able to take this move head-on. Chu Liyue looked up. Bai Qin was already right in front of him. A fierce fist went straight for his face. This attack contained even more power than the first time he had attacked. It's over. Chu Liyue didn't leave any face for Bai Qin. He's definitely going to be taught a lesson. I'm afraid that a few of Chu Liyue's bones will be broken by this punch. TSK, so what? Wasn't it Chu Liyue, that trash, who asked for it? As a good-for-nothing, you should obediently curl up in a corner and stop daydreaming. The crowd discussed in low voices as if they could already see the scene of Chu Liyue being defeated. Under the gaze of countless pairs of eyes, the slender girl standing in the middle of the square suddenly understood. She didn't make any extra movements. She just staggered her feet and turned her right palm into a fist and punched forward. Gasps could be heard from the crowd. Chu Liyue actually chose to face it head-on and even threw a punch of his own. Bang! A dull sound of impact was heard. Both of their fists collided fiercely. In comparison, Chu Liyue's fist was only half the size of Bai Qin's fist. When the two fists collided, Chu Liyue looked even more slender and weak. Some people couldn't help but hold their breaths. The bones in Chu Liyue's hand must have been broken, right? Sure enough, in the next moment, they saw Chu Liyue's body tremble and blood oozed out from the corner of her mouth. However, just when they thought that everything was over, they saw that Bai Qin's face didn't look relaxed or happy. Instead, it was filled with shock. He widened his eyes and looked at Chu Liyue as if he was looking at a freak. You? He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. However, in his heart, a huge wave of emotions had already surged. Chu Liyue's strength was far beyond his imagination. Logically speaking, Chu Liyue definitely wouldn't be able to take this punch. However, she was standing in the same spot and didn't even take a step back. Moreover, he could clearly feel that Chu Liyue's fist was much harder than he had imagined. He secretly gritted his teeth and added a bit more strength. Crack. The ground under Chu Liyue's feet suddenly cracked open. Several cracks quickly spread out. However, Chu Liyue still didn't move. In fact, her entire body was under immense pressure at this moment. The power contained in Bai Qin's fist was definitely not something an ordinary stage 3 warrior could display. Although this body had already nurtured her Yuan meridian and she had been practicing hard these days, the difference between the two of them was so many levels that it wasn't so easy to overcome. Her internal organs seemed to be crazily squeezed into a ball by an invisible force, as if they would explode the next moment. However, she still took this blow head-on. She looked at Bai Qin, her black jade-like eyes flashing with a bright light, and said word by word, "You're right. Senior Bai Qin, can you consider it as me going overboard this time?" Bai Qin gritted his teeth, but in the end, he retracted his fist and said in a deep voice. Chapter 39. Bai Qin's deep and powerful voice reverberated throughout the square. The originally noisy crowd instantly quieted down. Everyone looked at the square in shock, wondering if they had heard wrongly. What did Bai Qin just say? Chu Liyue passed. After a short moment of dead silence, the crowd burst into an uproar. How is that possible? How could Chu Liyue pass? That's right. She's not even a first-stage warrior, right? How could she pass? Could she have been admitted to Tianlu Academy just like that? That's too easy. It's strange, but Chu Luiyue really took Bai Chen's attack. Someone mumbled doubtfully. Some people suddenly quieted down and looked at each other. That's right. Bai Chen had said that as long as she took his attack head-on, Chu Luiyue would pass. Chu Luiyue did not retreat at all and took the attack head-on. Could it be that Bai Chen did it on purpose? Someone whispered uncertainly, but he quickly covered his mouth after saying that. Questioning Bai Chen in front of everyone was the same as questioning Tianlu Academy. Bai Chen looked around solemnly, took a deep breath, and finally opened his mouth. I know many people suspect that I went easy on her, but I dare to guarantee with my own reputation that there were no problems during the entire exam. Tianlu Academy is the top academy, and it has always been fair and just. Chu Luiyue did pass the warrior exam. Not only did he not go easy on her, but he also secretly increased the difficulty of the exam. Even a true stage 3 warrior might not be able to pass the exam so smoothly. However, Chu Luiyue did it. Although he looked down on her previously since she had done it, he would naturally accept it. Bai Chen's final words had completely shut everyone's mouths. As a teacher of Tianlu Academy, Bai Chen was known for his irritable and strict temper. Since even he admitted that Chu Luiyue had passed, no one could say anything else. Bai Chen looked at Chu Luiyue with a complicated expression. He never thought that Chu Luiyue would actually pass the exam. From today onwards, you are a student of Tianlu Academy. Everyone was in an uproar. She thought that she would be able to see Chu Luiyue make a fool of herself today. Who knew that she would actually get into Tianlu Academy? Those who could enter Tianlu Academy were all top-notch geniuses in country Yaochen. Chu Luiyue was a good-for-nothing, yet he was able to enter. It was strange no matter how one thought about it. Chu Luiyue's red lips curled up. Thank you, Senior Bai Chen. Perhaps I should address him as Teacher Bai Chen now? Bai Chen snorted coldly. He saw clearly that Chu Luiyue's face didn't show the slightest bit of surprise. His eyebrows were full of calmness. It was obvious that he had expected this result long ago. In other words, she was confident that she could pass. Bai Chen had previously thought that she and His Majesty were just indulging in fantasy when they proposed to enter Tianlu Academy. Now, however, it was clear that she had a card up her sleeve. Getting into Tianlu Academy is just the beginning. There's nothing to be proud of. You have to know that there are many talents in the academy. Only those who can stand out in the academy can become a true powerhouse. Bai Chen felt that he had lost face. Although Chu Luiyue had already passed the exam, he still didn't look happy. In fact, he still didn't think highly of Chu Luiyue. This was because he hadn't felt any force fluctuations from Chu Luiyue throughout the entire process. He didn't know what method she had used to barely pass the test just now. However, with an incomplete Yuan meridian, it was impossible for her to become a true cultivator. She might be able to reach the ability of a stage 3 warrior by relying on some unorthodox methods. However, it was impossible for her to advance any further. This Chu Luiyue. Even if she entered Tianlu Academy, he was afraid that she would achieve nothing in the future. Then he waved his sleeves and turned to leave. Teacher Bai Chen, please wait. Chu Luiyue suddenly spoke up. Bai Chen turned to look at her impatiently. Is there anything else? Since you've already passed the exam, someone will bring you into the academy later. Chu Luiyue shook her head. Teacher Bai Chen, the exam isn't over yet. Bai Chen frowned. What do you mean? Chu Luiyue smiled and pointed at the 2 black wooden boxes that were quietly placed not far away. Aren't there still 2 more exams? Bai Chen's expression turned even colder. Did you not understand the rules just now? There are 3 exams. You only need to pass one of them. Now that Chu Luiyue had already passed the warrior exam, there was no need for her to continue with the remaining 2 exams. Chu Luiyue blinked. Could it be that one person can only take 1 exam? You don't understand? Bai Chen was halfway through his words when he suddenly stopped. Wait, Chu Luiyue meant. Teacher Bai Chen, as far as I know, the academy's entrance exam rules don't seem to have any restrictions in this area, right? Bai Chen didn't speak for a while. The reason why there were 3 exams was that the cultivators in the Black Tortoise mainland were divided into 3 types. Different people had different talents. Some people might not be talented enough on the path of a warrior, but they were shockingly talented in other aspects. And such a person was either a Shen master or a heavenly doctor. There were very few of these 2 types. Celestial physician in particular were more than 1 in 10,000. So, you mean? Bai Chen spoke, feeling inexplicably nervous. Chu Luiyue took a step forward with a calm expression. Chapter 40. The entire square was dead silent. Everyone looked at Chu Luiyue as if they were looking at a lunatic. Are you kidding me? She wants to take the remaining 2 exams too? Does she think she can pass all 3 exams? In the entire country Yaoqin, there were only a few people who could pass all 3 exams at the same time. Bai Qin frowned deeply. Do you know what you're saying? Are you really going to take the remaining 2 exams? Chu Luiyue nodded. Bai Qin was silent for a moment before he clenched his teeth and waved his sleeves. Okay. I want to see what tricks you can come up with. He then gestured for Chu Luiyue to personally open the remaining 2 black wooden boxes. Chu Luiyue walked over and opened the middle box. There was also a piece of paper and a chessboard inside. On the chessboard, the black and white chess pieces had already been placed, forming a puzzle. Chu Luiyue only took one look and sensed that the chess pieces on the chessboard were placed according to a certain pattern, forming a formation. On the piece of paper were the requirements for this Xuanmaster exam. You have to solve this puzzle within 2 hours to pass. Perhaps in the eyes of ordinary people, 2 hours was too long to solve a puzzle, but in reality, this was completely different from ordinary chess games. The black and white chess pieces more or less contained the heaven and earth force. They were placed in different positions and influenced each other, naturally forming an extremely complicated puzzle. If one wanted to solve this puzzle, they had to be able to keenly sense the flow of the heaven and earth force. Just this point alone was enough to stop most people. Some people could barely sense it, but they couldn't clearly discern the pattern within, much less find a way to solve this puzzle. Therefore, only those who truly had the talent and potential to become a Xuanmaster could pass this round. Bai Qin also walked over, and his gaze paused on Chu Luiyue for a moment. You have to take out the chessboard. After all, the exam time was 2 hours. It would be convenient for students to take out the chessboard. However, Chu Luiyue shook her head and rejected him. Thank you for your reminder, Teacher Bai Qin, but there's no need. Bai Qin paused and sneered inwardly. Such a straightforward rejection meant that he knew that he wouldn't be able to decipher it and was going to give up. He snorted. Since you don't have the ability, don't force yourself. How can it be so easy to become a mystic master? As he spoke, he was about to put away the black wooden box. Chu Luiyue pursed her lips when she heard this. Was Bai Qin certain that she would not be able to pass and thought that she was going to give up? Teacher Bai Qin, please wait. Bai Qin looked at her impatiently. What else was she trying to do? Chu Luiyue had already picked up a black piece and placed it on the chessboard without hesitation. Pah! The chess piece landed on the chessboard, making a soft sound. Just as Bai Qin was about to scold him, he suddenly felt a subtle fluctuation on the chessboard. He subconsciously looked over and saw that the black and white chess pieces on the chessboard seemed to be controlled by an invisible force. They flew up and accurately landed in the chess jars at the side. Crackle. The sound of the chess pieces hitting each other was extremely crisp, but it was like a sudden clap of thunder that exploded in everyone's minds. Chu Luiyue actually managed to decipher this puzzle. Bai Qin was instantly stunned and could not return to his senses for a long time. How long did Chu Luiyue take just now? It seemed like less than 15 minutes. Including the time she spent talking to him, Chu Luiyue only took a few glances to decipher the puzzle. Bai Qin was really shocked this time. He had been at Tianlu Academy for many years and had seen many mystic master geniuses, but he had never seen anyone pass this round so quickly. To be able to do it so quickly, she either knew the answer beforehand or had unparalleled talent. However, this chessboard was one of Tianlu Academy's treasures. It could randomly change into a different game during each exam. Before opening the black wooden box, even he did not know what it would be like. This meant that Chu Luiyue was indeed extremely talented as a mystic master. During the martial artist round, Bai Qin had always thought that Chu Luiyue had relied on some small tricks to pass because he had not sensed any force fluctuations from Chu Luiyue's body. Otherwise, there was really no way to explain how she had caused him to feel such a strong sense of threat and even received his attack head-on. However, everything in front of him now made Bai Qin clearly realize that Chu Luiyue was indeed talented. At the very least, she had the top-notch talent to become a mystic master. Teacher Bai Qin, is this considered a pass? Chu Luiyue held a smile at the corner of her mouth. Her tone was as calm as ever, as if she did not realize how shocking her talent was. However, Bai Qin could not be as calm as her. It was as if huge waves had been set off in his heart. Because he was also a mystic master. Tianlu Academy students would usually be assigned to different teachers to cultivate after entering the academy. It was even more so for mystic masters and celestial physician because of their own uniqueness. Every teacher could be considered to be an individual. There were many mystic master teachers in Tianlu Academy, and they were all competitive with each other. They especially liked to show off how amazing their students were. Bai Qin was very sure that Chu Luiyue was definitely a mystic master genius that was hard to come by in 100 years. Chu Luiyue waited for a while. When she saw that Bai Qin did not say anything, she could not help but call out to him again. "Teacher Bai Qin." Bai Qin suddenly returned to his senses. He looked at Chu Luiyue as if he was looking at a rare treasure. He rubbed his hands together and a fervent smile appeared on his face. Coupled with his originally stern and boorish face, it looked very strange. Chapter 41. The corners of Chu Luiyue's eyes twitched. "Little Luyu?" His face was filled with annoyance just now, but in the blink of an eye, his attitude did a 180-degree turn. He changed his attitude faster than flipping a book. "Oh, Teacher Bai Qin, you don't have to be so polite. How can this be called being polite? Since you're already a student of Tianlu Academy, as a teacher, I should take care of you," Bai Qin hurriedly said. As he spoke, he carefully observed Chu Luiyue's expression and secretly regretted it. How could he treat her like that before? Little Luyu definitely did not have a good impression of him. If he had known that she had such shocking talent as a Xian master, he would have definitely treated her well. Thinking of this, he could not help but curse all 18 generations of the Chu family in his heart. Loser? Bullsh * T Chu family. She had no foresight and could not recognize a true genius. She even implicated him. If he had not heard those rumors, he would not have treated her like that before. Little Luyu. Teacher's attitude was not good just now. Please don't take it to heart. Bai Qin scratched his head and said embarrassedly. Chu Luiyue looked at him in shock. Although Bai Qin looked embarrassed, his eyes were very sincere. He was sincerely apologizing. Chu Luiyue blinked. This person was really interesting. It was true that he did not like her before, and it was also true that he wanted to worm his way into being friends with her now. Was this change because of the Xian master talent that she displayed just now? However, she had already tried her best to suppress it. That endgame was extremely simple. She had started learning formations at the age of 4 and could construct Xian formations by herself at the age of 5. She could not even be bothered to look at such a formation. However, now it seemed like she had to be more low-key. Strength is respected. Liu also knows this. Teacher Bai Qin, you don't have to take it to heart. Bai Qin's status was considered respectable, but he was sincere enough to apologize to her in front of so many people. This made Chu Luiyue's impression of him improve. Such a person was a one-track mind. Only by showing his true strength would he be able to change his attitude. Hearing her say this, Bai Qin finally heaved a sigh of relief and quickly asked politely, "Then, do you still want to continue with the Celestial Physician exam?" Celestial Physician was even rarer than Xian Master. Previously he thought that Chu Luiyue was just trying to show off, but now he was looking forward to it. Perhaps, she was really talented as a Celestial Physician? Chu Luiyue lowered his eyes slightly. She originally thought that the Xian Master exam was a normal procedure, but she didn't expect to shock these people. Just from Bai Qin's reaction, she knew that this matter would definitely spread quickly. A tall tree attracts the wind. She had to be careful during the Celestial Physician exam. Chu Luiyue nodded. Continue. As she spoke, she opened the third black wooden box and took out the exam questions inside. Make use of the 10 medicinal herbs given to you and make a prescription. Chu Luiyue took a look and saw that the wooden box had been divided into 10 compartments. Each compartment contained different medicinal herbs. She quickly took a look and recognized these things. Most of these were extremely common medicinal herbs, but their characteristics were extremely different. Some were cold and some were hot. Among them there was a silver ice cicada, also known as hanxizi. It was highly poisonous. The examinee needed to have a thorough understanding of these medicinal herbs and balance each other's medicinal effects in order to make a good prescription. Otherwise, if they weren't careful, they would fail. Not only would they not be able to make a good prescription, they might even make a poison. Among these, the handling of hanxizi was clearly the most important. Chu Luiyue obviously knew how to handle hanxizi to remove the poison, but she clearly couldn't do that now. She pondered for a moment and took out the medicinal herbs one by one. Some were ground into powder, some were pressed into juice, and they were mixed together according to different proportions. During the entire process, Chu Luiyue's movements seemed a bit hesitant and slow. Sometimes she even made some small mistakes. Bai Qin watched from the side and shook his head inwardly. Although he wasn't a celestial physician, he more or less understood. Chu Luiyue did have talent in this area, but it was clearly limited. An hour passed very quickly. Chu Luiyue finally finished making the prescription and handed it to Bai Qin. Bai Qin took a look and shook his head. You barely passed. However, that was all there was to it. With this kind of talent, she could at most become a doctor. She couldn't become a true celestial physician. Actually, it was already rare to become a doctor. If other people could pass this exam, they would definitely be overjoyed. However, Bai Chen had previously seen Chu Liyue's stunning talent as a Xian master. When he looked at this again, he naturally didn't think much of it. Chu Liyue asked, "Teacher Bai Chen, did I pass this exam?" Bai Chen quickly dismissed those thoughts in his heart and looked at Chu Liyue with a sigh. Then he laughed out loud. "Of course. I passed. Little Lu, you passed all 3 exams and got into Tianlu Academy. There aren't many people in our entire country, Yao Chen, who can do that." His deep voice rang out in an instant. It reverberated clearly in the entire square. Everyone was at a loss. What's wrong? What happened just now? Chu Liyue. Not only did she get into Tianlu Academy, but she also passed all 3 exams. Chapter 42. Come. I'll bring you to the academy to take a look. Bai Chen was filled with excitement. He could not wait to accept Chu Liyue as his disciple. It would be a huge regret if he missed out on such a top-notch Xian master prodigy. He was originally unhappy that he was sent to preside over the exam, but he was now filled with joy. He had to win Chu Liyue's favor before those old fellows found out about her talent. Chu Liyue could not help but laugh when she saw how eager he was. "Teacher Bai Chen, isn't this a little too fast?" "Not fast, not fast. Not fast at all. You didn't make it in time for the first semester. Now that the school year is halfway through, you're half a year later than the other students. You have to hurry up. At the very least, you should follow me to familiarize yourself with the environment." He suddenly thought of something and slapped his thigh. "All right, will you be staying at the Chu residence or the academy? If you're staying at the academy, I'll get someone to arrange a place for you." Tianlu Academy students were usually free to choose. Students who lived in the Imperial City would usually choose to stay at home. As for those who came from outside the Imperial City, most of them would stay at the academy. Tianlu Academy was the top academy in country Yaochen, so its conditions were not bad. However, compared to the aristocratic families in the Imperial City, it was much simpler. As a result, many aristocratic family descendants spent more time at home than cultivating. Speaking of which, Chu Liyue was actually the legitimate daughter of the first wife of the Chu family. However, Bai Chen knew very well that Chu Liyue's life would definitely not be good after being called a good-for-nothing for more than 10 years. Moreover, she had just cancelled her engagement with the crown prince and was now at the heart of the struggle. Not many people in the Chu family would treat her sincerely. Chu Liyue's heart warmed when she saw Bai Chen's enthusiasm. She knew that he was thinking for her, so she bowed. "Thank you, Teacher Bai Chen." Bai Chen was overwhelmed by the favor and waved his hand. "I'll be your teacher in the future. What's there to thank me for? If you don't have anything else, why don't you follow me to the academy?" Chu Liyue nodded. "All right." As they spoke, the two of them walked toward Tianlu Academy one after another. At this moment, the crowd finally reacted to what had happened. Looking at the skinny girl, they were speechless for a moment. Who would have thought that she would be able to do this? Looking at Bai Chen's expression, it was clear that he valued her greatly. In the future, he was afraid that Chu Liyue would no longer be the good-for-nothing that could be bullied and humiliated by others. Step by step, Chu Liyue walked to the door. He stopped in his tracks and glanced at the words Tianlu Academy. Since then she had finally entered the top academy in country Yaochen. And this was only the beginning. After Chu Liyue followed Bai Chen into Tianlu Academy, the series of events that had happened that day spread like wildfire in the Imperial City. After passing through the barrier in front of the door, Chu Liyue finally stepped into Tianlu Academy's territory. As soon as she entered, she immediately sensed that the concentration of origin power in the surroundings was much stronger than outside. When she was outside, she could already see that there was a huge barrier surrounding Tianlu Academy. That barrier was obviously constructed with the help of a Xian formation, and it was perfectly integrated with the entire academy. Chu Liyue glanced over and sensed a few Xian formation points. She raised her eyebrows slightly, feeling a little surprised. Tianlu Academy's Xian formation was much stronger than she had imagined. It was indeed unexpected to see such a thing in the small country Yaochen. It seemed like coming to Tianlu Academy was the right choice. Bai Chen had been secretly observing Chu Liyue. When he saw her expression change slightly, his heart skipped a beat. "Little Liyu, did you sense something?" Chu Liyue naturally knew that he was testing her, so she smiled. "The academy seems to be a little different from the outside world. It seems like the power of the Xian formation?" You can indeed sense it. Bai Chen was very excited. He sighed in his heart. Chu Luiyue was indeed the most talented xianmaster he had seen in so many years. Thinking of this, he could not help but ask, "Little Luyu, you are so talented as a xianmaster. Why did you?" At this point, even Bai Chen was a little embarrassed to continue speaking. Everyone knew that Chu Luiyue had been scolded as a good-for-nothing for more than 10 years. Even before today's exam he thought so too. Logically speaking, an aristocratic family like the Chu family would definitely not miss out on such a genius. Chu Luiyue smiled nonchalantly. That was all in the past. I only discovered that I seemed to have some talent by chance. Bai Chen was secretly speechless. If this is called a little, then there are probably not many people in the entire country Yaochen who can be considered geniuses. It was a pity that Chu Luiyue's talent was discovered too late. If it had happened a few years earlier, her abilities would definitely be much more powerful now. Speaking of which, it was all because of the Chu family. Bai Chen thought to himself. Seeing that Chu Luiyue did not seem to want to talk about this, he did not continue. Instead, he started to introduce the academy to her in detail. Let's not talk about this anymore. Since you are a student of Tianlu Academy in the future, you will naturally be very different from before. You should also be able to sense that the force in the academy is denser than the outside world. Chapter 43. I see. Chu Luiyue nodded in realization and asked curiously. That so-called pit of heavenly origins is so powerful? Of course. Bai Chen raised his hand and pointed in a certain direction. Do you see Jianghu Tower over there? That's the place closest to the pit of heavenly origins, and the heaven and earth force inside is even denser. Can even reach a few times denser. Cultivating there can be twice the result with half the effort. Chu Luiyue looked at him with a fixed gaze and then smiled. Since that's the case, wouldn't 1 year inside be equivalent to cultivating outside for a few years? Ah. Although that's the case, no one has been able to stay inside for so long. The force in Jianghu Tower is very abundant, but it's also because of this that it puts a lot of pressure on the cultivator's body. Even a stage 3 warrior can only stay there for 3 days at most. If you forcefully stay there, not only will it not benefit your cultivation, but it will also cause great damage to your body and even endanger your life. At this point, Bai Chen's expression became much more serious. Don't bite off more than you can chew. I'm sure you know that. Chu Luiyue nodded. However, Jianghu Tower isn't a place you can enter casually. You just need to understand these things briefly. Bai Chen glanced at Chu Luiyue hesitantly. It's better for you to study the Xian formation when you have time. Chu Luiyue smiled but didn't say anything. She knew what Bai Chen meant. She had an incomplete Yuan meridian, and it was useless for her to go there. Only Xian masters didn't have any requirements for their Yuan meridian as long as they could feel the heaven and earth force circulating. He had said this out of consideration for her. Chu Luiyue didn't explain further. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing to enter as a Xian master genius. Many things would be much more convenient in the future. At the same time, she could leave a way out for herself. It was killing several birds with one stone. That's the Academy's martial arts field. Students usually spar there. Next to it is the arena, which is usually where students formally challenge each other. As Bai Chen led Chu Luiyue into the academy, he told her about many things related to the academy. Today is the day you enter the academy. You also know that the academy recruits the top geniuses. In order to tap their greatest potential, the academy's teaching method is very particular. Bai Chen raised 3 fingers. Warrior, Xian Master, and Celestial Physician. Celestial Physician, there are even fewer students. Furthermore, less than 1/3 of them could become heavenly doctors. After students enter the academy, they will be assigned to different teachers according to their results. However, if the student's talent is extremely good, there will be a situation where several teachers will fight over the student. At this time, the students will usually choose which teacher to follow. Bai Chen coughed as he spoke. And I am usually a Xian master teacher. Chu Luiyue nodded in understanding. Being a warrior was not rare. In comparison, being a Xian master was more honorable. It was normal for him to choose to be a Xian master teacher. At the same time, Chu Luiyue finally understood why Bai Chen's attitude suddenly changed after she displayed her talent as a Xian master. It was obvious that he wanted to take her in as his disciple. But Chu Luiyue did not want to make a decision too early, so she did not say anything even though she had a smile on her face. Bai Chen was a little disappointed when he saw this, but he knew that with his previous attitude, he did not have the face to ask Chu Luiyue to choose him as her master. Chu Luiyue calmly changed the topic. Teacher Bai Qin, why is the academy a little quiet? We've been here for a while but we haven't seen anyone. Bai Qin was taken aback before bursting into laughter. Ah, that's because the academy's 3-day midterm assessment has started. Today is the first day, so the students and teachers have all gone to the back of the mountain. Midterm assessment? That sounds a little familiar. If she did not remember wrongly, she remembered that Chu Xianmin had planned to come out on top in this assessment. At this moment, a few female voices were heard. Minmin, let's go quickly. The assessment is about to start. Peipei, why are you in such a hurry? Isn't there still some time? Besides, Minmin has always been liked by the teachers. They won't blame her even if she's late. Don't you think so, Minmin? Even so, it's not good to be late. Let's hurry. Speaking of which, it's all my fault today. If I hadn't been held up by something at home, we wouldn't be so late. Chu Luiyue looked in the direction of the voice and saw a few girls walking out from the right. Who else could it be other than Chu Xianmin? Who else could it be? Minmin, you're too kind. I heard that it's all because of Chu Luiyue that you were punished by your father. That good-for-nothing clearly can't stand that you're more outstanding than her, so she's deliberately taking revenge. At the mention of Chu Luiyue, Chu Xianmin's face froze for a moment, but it quickly disappeared. No matter what, she's still my sister. Humph, she's not worthy. I remember that today is the day of her assessment, right? She's really not afraid of embarrassing herself. If I were her, I would have killed myself out of shame. Minmin, you're the person who came first in the academy's assessment. She's just a good-for-nothing who can't even get into our academy. What does she have to compete with you? Chu Xianmin pursed her lips, but a tinge of happiness flashed across her heart. However, at this moment she suddenly felt that something was amiss. She subconsciously turned around and saw a familiar face. Chu Luiyue. Chapter 44. Upon hearing this, Chu Luiyue asked, "Why can't I be here? Why can't I be here?" You! After the series of events at the Crown Prince's birthday banquet, Chu Xianmin hated Chu Luiyue to the core. Now that she suddenly saw Chu Luiyue, she could not wait to teach her a lesson. However, she suddenly realized that there was someone standing beside Chu Luiyue when the words were about to come out of her mouth. It was Teacher Bai Qin from the academy. She forcefully swallowed the words in her throat and quickly hid her hateful expression. When she looked up at Bai Qin again, she had her usual gentle smile on her face. Greetings, Teacher Bai Qin. Her greeting immediately made the few people around her react, and they immediately followed suit and saluted. Greetings, Teacher Bai Qin. Bai Qin frowned and did not say anything. He had clearly heard what these people had said earlier. Putting aside the grudge between Chu Xianmin and Chu Luiyue had never provoked anyone else. He did not expect them to speak so harshly in private. He treasured Chu Luiyue a lot in his heart, and he couldn't bear to hear anyone slander or humiliate her. Bai Qin had a bad temper to begin with. When he heard this, his heart was already burning with anger. Sensing Bai Qin's anger, Chu Xianmin and the rest could not help but exchange glances. They were a little worried. Could it be that he heard what we said just now? Even if he heard us, we kept talking about Chu Luiyue. Why is Teacher Bai Qin angry? The academy recruited all of you in order to let you cultivate and become experts, not for you to gossip behind people's backs. If your mind isn't on cultivation, then get out of here. Bai Qin did not give them any face. His words were powerful and made the few people's faces turn pale. These words were too harsh. When had they ever been reprimanded like this before? For a moment, his face was burning. However, Bai Qin had a distinguished status. How could they dare to go against him? The few of them secretly looked at Chu Xianmin for help. At this time, only Chu Xianmin, who was the teacher's favorite, could speak. Chu Xianmin was also shocked by Bai Qin. Didn't I just say a few words about Chu Luiyue? Did he have to act like this? Teacher Bai Qin, you might have misunderstood something. We were just casually speaking just now. We don't have any ill intentions. However, Bai Qin did not seem to want to give her any face today. So you're saying that I heard wrongly? Chu Xianmin choked. Normally, the teachers in the academy would never treat her like this. What was going on today? Minmin didn't mean that. It's just that I was a little surprised to see you here, so I couldn't help but ask. She changed the topic, intending to cover up the fact that they had insulted Chu Luiyue. At the same time, she quickly remembered something. The person who was sent to test Chu Luiyue today was Bai Qin. What do you think? Is she trying to test me? Chu Luiyue smiled. Sure. Zhenbao Pavilion was especially lively today. It was not even noon, but many people had already gathered on the first floor. Moreover, they were all people of status. They were here today for the same reason. Zhenbao Pavilion had recently received a new batch of treasures. Today they were going to hold an auction for these items. A few days ago the booklet had already been sent to every family. As some of the items were indeed rare, many people came today. Zhenbao Pavilion's second in charge, Jianghu, was enthusiastically chatting with the crowd. Second Master Yan, we've been waiting for today's auction for a long time. Yeah. I wonder who will get those items in the end. Hee, won't we know when the auction starts? Thank you for your hard work, Second Master Yan. Jianghu was full of smiles. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. At this moment, a page boy suddenly walked behind Jianghu and whispered into his ear. At the same time he handed him a letter. Jianghu laughed and said, Everyone please? I'll take my leave first. Then, he retreated to the cubicle at the back of the hall and carefully opened the letter. Why did Master suddenly send a letter? When he saw the words on the letter, Yanji's voice stopped abruptly and his eyes widened. His expression quickly changed and it took him a while to calm his frantic heartbeat. After a while he walked out and stood in the middle of the hall. I'm sorry everyone. Today's auction has been cancelled. Once this was said, everyone was shocked. What? It's cancelled? What's going on? We've been waiting here for the whole morning. How can it be cancelled just like that? Jianghu cupped his hands in apology, but his tone was firm. Chapter 45. Hearing Jianghu mention the big master, the noisy hall immediately quietened down. Everyone looked at each other. They did not expect this to be the intention of the mysterious big master of Zhenbao Pavilion. If it was any other reason they could still argue. But who knew that it was actually that person? He was not someone to be trifled with. Jianghu chuckled and said, Don't worry. Everyone don't worry. In order to compensate everyone for today's loss, my Zhenbao Pavilion will send a small gift to each of our esteemed guests. Please forgive us. Hearing Yanji's words, everyone's expression became better. This was considered giving them a way out. Of course everyone gave face. Second Master Yan, you're too courteous. Since it's the big master's request, we naturally won't object. That's right. Zhenbao Pavilion has been doing business in the capital for so many years. Why would we purposely make things difficult for them? We'll just wait for a while. Gift or not, Second Master Yan is too courteous. Almost everyone present was an aristocrat in the capital. What they cared about the most was not money but status and face. If it was another house that cancelled the auction at the last minute, they would definitely not let the matter rest. But it was Zhenbao Pavilion. In their hearts they were more or less afraid of him. Jianghu continued with a smile. Thank you very much, everyone. Later the people from Zhenbao Pavilion will give each of you a barrier-breaking pill as an apology. Hearing his words, the crowd was shocked again. Wall-breaking pill? That was a rarely seen first-rate medicinal pill. Advancing from a stage 3 warrior to a stage 4 warrior was a huge threshold that all cultivators faced. Many people were unable to successfully break through in their entire lives and remain stage 3 warriors forever. But if they used the wall-breaking pill, the success rate would increase by 2 times. This 2 times did not sound very impressive, but it could help some people successfully break through and advance further. It was really a precious treasure. Ordinary people might not even have one in their entire lives. Even existences like the 4 great clans could only take out a few of them. But Zhenbao Pavilion actually said that they would give one to each person. There were at least 20 to 30 people here. If everyone had one, and this was just their way of apologizing. Zhenbao Pavilion was really generous. Some people's expressions changed again as they started to re-evaluate the precious treasure pavilion's position. So many wall-breaking pills were not something that could be obtained with money alone. What was the background of this treasure pavilion? And who exactly was that great master of theirs who had never shown his face? The wall-breaking pill successfully appeased everyone's dissatisfaction. Even if they still had complaints, they didn't dare to say anything. After a while, someone finally laughed and joked. Second Master Yan, Zhenbao Pavilion must have suffered a huge loss this time, right? Your first master is really willing to do anything for his wife. Jianghu straightened his back and smiled politely. It's nothing. Our first master has a deep relationship with Madam. As long as he can make Madam smile, what does this count for? The crowd roared with laughter. Soon, someone stood up and took his leave. Soon, everyone in the hall left one after another, leaving only Jianghu and a few servants. Jianghu finally heaved a sigh of relief after those people had all disappeared and closed the door. He rubbed his face that had stiffened from smiling and immediately turned to enter the cubicle at the back of the hall. He hurriedly asked the servant who delivered the letter, He hurriedly asked the servant, "Since when did the first master have a wife?" Only the heavens knew that he was completely stunned when he saw the letter from the first master. The servant coughed. "I only found out today. It should be something that happened recently. You follow the first master every day, how could you not know?" Xianxia didn't believe him. He immediately stepped forward and took out the letter. He read it carefully a few times and lamented, "I've been following the first master for so many years. How could I not know anything about such an important matter? It's fine if the first master didn't say anything, but why didn't you tell me first? You suddenly did this today and I almost couldn't clean up the mess." The servant felt wronged. "I really didn't know either. If you really want to know, you can ask the first master yourself." Xianxia immediately shut up. He didn't have the guts. After hesitating for a while, he finally couldn't help but ask softly, "Sai, you should know who Madame is, right? Can you tell me? So that we won't clash in the future." The page boy sighed. "You'll naturally find out in a few days." Xianxia was even more curious after hearing this. The first master had never been tempted by women before. Why did he suddenly have a madam? What kind of fairy could win the first master's heart? "I've delivered the letter. I'll take my leave first. Take care of things here. The first master will be here soon." The servant left quickly after he finished speaking. Sigh. Xianxia couldn't stop him and rubbed his glabella with a headache. The first master wanted to pick a gift for Madame and didn't hesitate to offend so many important people in the imperial city. It was obvious that he was serious. Tianlu Academy, Back Mountain. Many students were gathered here. It was very lively and noisy. Their young faces were filled with unconcealed excitement and nervousness. "I wonder what the assessment this year is like. I heard that the rewards are exceptionally generous." "Our academy has always been generous. What's so strange about this? The key is whether we can get into the top few places." "That's true. The higher the ranking, the better the rewards. The 3 batches of students will be assessed separately, and there will be 3 first places. Chu Xianmin will definitely be the first in our batch, right?" "Sai, speaking of her, why isn't she here yet? Teacher Bai Qin isn't back either." Bai Qin and the rest finally arrived just as the crowd was discussing. A green-robed teacher, who was preparing for the assessment, saw Bai Qin and hurriedly waved at him. "Bai Qin, you're finally back. Why did you take so long for an assessment? You still have to deal with the Xian formation over there." However, Bai Qin laughed and interrupted him. "Ling Zhu, I wasn't wasting time. I picked up a treasure for our academy." His voice was loud to begin with, and he had made up his mind to support Chu Luiyue. Thus, his voice reverberated loudly. It landed clearly in everyone's ears. At this moment, everyone's gazes were focused on Zhang Xian. Ling Zhu looked at him in confusion. "What do you mean?" Bai Qin laughed and took a step to the side, signaling Chu Luiyue to come forward. Chu Luiyue bowed obediently. "Luyu greets teacher Ling Zhu." "Luyu? Chu Luiyue?" Ling Zhu sized her up and furrowed his brows as he looked at Bai Qin. "Bai Qin, your little Luyu has passed 3 assessments and is officially a part of our academy. I brought her here to watch the fun." As soon as he finished speaking, the originally noisy Back Mountain suddenly fell silent. Chu Xianmin saw that Chu Luiyue was in the limelight again and immediately went forward with a smile. Chapter 47. She looked at the youth in front of her. He looked to be around 15 or 16 years old. He was tall and thin and his appearance was clean and delicate. However, there was an arrogant aura around him that made people feel uncomfortable. "Teacher Bai Qin asked me to come here. Are you saying that this is Teacher Bai Qin's fault?" Chu Luiyue asked indifferently. The youth's expression changed slightly and he frowned. Bai Qin was one of the top mystic teachers in the academy. His status was respected, and even he did not dare to offend him. If he was accused of this, he would not have a good ending. After a moment, he sneered. "Do you only know how to use Teacher Bai Qin as a shield? If you have the ability, show some real skills. Otherwise, even if you enter the academy, no one will think highly of you." Chu Luiyue replied with an, "Oh. So aren't I here to participate in the assessment? You're blocking my way, brother." The youth's face turned red from choking. He looked at Chu Luiyue and wanted to reprimand her, but he did not know what to say. "Xiang, come back." At this moment, a clear voice sounded. Although the tone was calm, it carried a faint dignity that made people unable to defy it. Chu Luiyue looked up and realized that the voice came from another youth standing behind the crowd. When she saw the youth's appearance clearly, Chu Luiyue raised her brows. This person's appearance was extremely good. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He was very handsome, and his facial features seemed to have been carved by a knife. He stood there surrounded by people, but those people added together were not as eye-catching as him. Under the sunlight, the shadows of the trees swayed. He stood with his hands behind his back like a sword that was about to be unsheathed. He had a frighteningly sharp aura. The nameplate in front of his chest was also black and white. He was clearly a mystic. This person was not simple, Chu Luiyue thought to herself. When she came over just now, she did not notice this person at all. Logically speaking, his aura was so obvious that she definitely would not have missed it. There was only one possibility. This youth had completely concealed his aura just now. Being able to do this was enough to prove that his strength was definitely not weak. As if noticing Chu Luiyue's gaze, the young man's gaze shifted slightly and he also glanced at her. A hint of surprise flashed through his eyes. He had seen this first miss of the Chu clan before. His impression of her was that she had a timid personality. Why did she seem to have changed into a different person now? When the youth called Xiang heard this voice, he pursed his lips and looked at Chu Luiyue. Let's see who's the real deal later. Chu Luiyue shrugged her shoulders and did not comment. She wasn't sure if he had that ability. But, the name Xiang, they seem to be from the Xi family, the leader of the 4 great families? Big brother. As long as you enter from here, pass through the forest and get the flag on the other side, you'll pass. Not only did the dozens of students not relax, but they also became nervous. Everyone knew that this forest was definitely not that simple to pass through. There must be a Xian formation set up inside. However, you have to listen carefully. After entering, everyone must complete the battle alone. If you discover that anyone is teaming up, your results will be nullified. Speaking of this, the teacher's expression suddenly became much more serious. There will be teachers monitoring the entire examination process. If you have any thoughts, keep them to yourself, understand? Yes. The students' expressions became serious. Actually, this rule was very normal. After all, the Xian Master examination was based on one's ability. If they teamed up, what was the point? Alright, now I announce. The Xian Master examination begins. The moment the teacher finished speaking, he threw something out. Bang! A bright firework exploded in mid-air. Let's go. The moment the firework exploded, someone had already rushed in without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, their figures disappeared into the dense forest. What's the hurry? The Xian Master examination isn't just about running fast. Xiang mumbled and then glanced at Si Ting. Big brother, I'm leaving first. Since they couldn't work together, it was better for them to split up. Si Ting nodded. Everyone left one by one and soon, only Chu Luiyue and Si Ting were left. Si Ting was about to lift his leg when he realized that Chu Luiyue was faster than him and took 3 steps to the right. Chapter 48. A Xian formation had already been set up in this forest. The moment they entered the forest, the test had already begun. Si Ting had already realized that this Xian formation was a little special. It was actually a little troublesome to enter from their current position. However, this was obviously done by the Academy's teachers on purpose. Only the truly talented and capable Xian masters could recognize this Xian formation and choose to enter from another direction. This was also why he did not follow the others in immediately and stayed at the back. He did not intend to enter from this entrance at all. However, he did not expect that other than him, there was actually someone else who could do this. Furthermore, this person had to be Chu Luiyue, who had just entered the academy today. Si Ting's mind raced as he glanced at Chu Luiyue without batting an eyelid. Was this just a coincidence, or was she really capable? Chu Luiyue naturally sensed Si Ting's attention, but she did not hesitate. She continued to take a few steps back and avoided the entrance. Then she chose to walk in another direction. If we wait any longer, the first place will be mine. Chu Luiyue turned around and smiled at Si Ting. Si Ting was taken aback. In that instant, he felt that the surrounding scenery was overshadowed. The girl in red seemed to have gathered all the light on her body. It was brilliant and dazzling. However, her obsidian-like eyes were even brighter and more breathtaking than all of this. Everything around them became blurry at this moment. Only this girl became the only color. Si Ting's heart skipped a beat. He felt something brush past him. When he came back to his senses, Chu Luiyue had already disappeared into the dense forest. He could only see a strand of her hair fluttering in the wind. Si Ting closed his eyes and suppressed the ripple in his heart. After hesitating for a moment, he also took a few steps back and entered from another direction. The teachers in charge of the test only recovered from their shock after all the students had entered the forest. They looked at each other in disbelief. Just now, how did Chu Luiyue enter from that direction? Only a third-level Xian master can recognize this formation. Logically speaking, only Si Ting should be able to enter from the correct direction. How did Chu Luiyue do it? Although Si Ting had been very quiet for the past half a year, the teachers in the academy all knew that he had broken through to become a level 3 mystic cultivator a few days ago. He was only 15 years old. With such talent and ability, almost no one in the entire country Yaochen could compare to him. Even if he were to compete with those senior brothers and sisters, he would almost never lose. It was normal for him to be able to see through the profound formation's mysteries. But, what's going on with Chu Luiyue? Hey, I told you that Luyu is a genius, but you didn't believe me. When the results of the competition are out, make sure your eyeballs don't fall to the ground. At this moment, Bai Qin had also walked over. He wasn't the teacher in charge of the examination, so he could only watch from the side and didn't participate personally. But that didn't stop him from coming to watch the show. Let me tell you, if Luyu chooses a teacher, Bai Qin will be the first one. Don't you dare fight with me, Bai Qin said with a smile of exultation. When he saw that Chu Luiyue had chosen the correct direction to enter, he couldn't help but applaud in his heart. When the results of the examination are out, let's see if these people will still look at Luyu with the same expression. It seems like Chu Luiyue is indeed talented in this area. Even if he can't compare to Si Ting, he's already pretty good. One of the teachers nodded. They were all Xian masters, so of course they could tell something. There was nothing to hide. Can't compare to Si Ting? Bai Qin asked in return and grinned. Chapter 49. When Chu Luiyue entered the forest, she immediately sensed a subtle change in the entire Xian formation. It was obvious that this Xian formation was completely controlled by the academy's teachers. Whatever happened inside, they would be the first to know. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes and stayed in the same spot for a while. Then, she seemed to be hesitant as she chose a direction and walked in that direction. This kind of Xian formation was too easy for her. If she wanted to, she could directly walk out of it using the most correct and convenient path. But after the previous incident, she already roughly knew what kind of standard she should display to be the most suitable. Hence, she started to walk slowly in the forest. Since she had already entered the academy, everything else was easy to discuss. As for the first place, she really wasn't interested. She agreed to participate in the assessment this time because she hoped to let those people know that she wasn't so easy to bully. This way she could save a lot of trouble in the future. What she said just now was just an act. Chu Luiyue walked like this for about half an hour before she reached a fork in the road. These 3 paths all extended into the forest, but they led to different directions. Looking forward from here, other than the dense trees, she couldn't see anything else. This was the time for her to make a choice. Chu Luiyue stood at the fork in the road and was silent for a moment. Then she chose the middle path. Not long after she walked on this path, a whistling gust of wind suddenly attacked. The trees shook violently. Some of the leaves carried a terrifying aura and flew towards Chu Luiyue. Chi-chi. The sound of air breaking was incessant. Biting cold killing intent surrounded her from all directions. However, Chu Luiyue's eyes were still calm. She wasn't surprised at all. In the next moment she tiptoed and her figure flew out quickly. She narrowly avoided the attack of those leaves. At the same time, on the other side of the forest, 2 middle-aged men and an old man were sitting in a circle. The 3 of them were meditating with their eyes closed. They looked like they were asleep. However, in the middle of them there was a silver Xian formation. It was shining brightly. Several silver lines intersected and overlapped, forming an extremely complicated pattern. Suddenly, one of the lines violently jumped. A man opened his eyes and asked in surprise, "How long has it been? He's already here? This Chu Luiyue looks like he really is a genius mystic cultivator." The old man also opened his eyes and stroked his beard with a smile. Not bad. Among so many people, only she and Si Ting had walked in the right direction from the start. Although her choice wasn't as good as Si Ting's, it's still very outstanding. The last person hesitated for a moment and shook his head. It's a pity that this girl doesn't walk in an orderly manner. She probably hasn't learned much about Xian formations and is just making guesses based on her feelings. Look, isn't this the wrong way? The old man narrowed his eyes and suddenly asked. This old man remembers that Chu Luiyue didn't have a good time in the Chu family? The Chu family shouldn't have hired a teacher for her, right? Elder son, you mean? Sun Zhongyan lowered his eyes and glanced at the profound formation. The line that had been fluctuating intensely earlier had already calmed down. He let out a meaningful laugh. Although that girl walked in the wrong direction, she doesn't seem to be injured. As such talent has really been wasted by the Chu family. At this moment, a star suddenly lit up on the profound formation. The two middle-aged men were shocked. Chapter 50. Si Ting is extremely talented. He seems to have improved a lot during this period of time. It is not surprising that he was able to find the array core. Sun Zhongyan did not seem surprised as he waved his hand. However, I am surprised that he has been keeping a low profile ever since he entered the academy. Why is it that today, it was not his style to show off like this? Or has he sensed that an opponent who can threaten him has appeared? Sun Zhongyan muttered softly. The other two looked at each other with a puzzled expression. Threaten? Elder son, are you serious? Is there someone who can threaten Si Ting among the students in the academy? Outsiders might not know, but as Shen masters they knew how talented and powerful Si Ting was. It was not an exaggeration to say that even Si Ting's seniors from 2 batches before him might not be his match. Didn't you say that Si Ting's talent as a Shen master is only seen once in 100 years? Sun Zhongyan stretched out a finger and pointed at the Shen formation in the middle of the 3 men. Look carefully. Chu Liwei has been walking in a disorderly manner, but she has been walking in the same direction. Hearing this, the 2 men looked down in confusion. Starting from where she had entered, she had been walking toward the array core. Even though the process in the middle was a little messy, Chu Liwei was indeed heading toward the formation's eye as a whole. How is this possible? She is not even a first-level Shen master. How could she have found the array core? She must have been guessing based on her intuition. The 2 men's faces were filled with disbelief. Sun Zhongyan chuckled. If she did not walk in the wrong direction at the 3-way junction, she should have reached the array core by now. Maybe, she will be faster than Si Ting. His words made the other 2 men fall into silence. They did not speak for a long time. No wonder Bai Chen was so excited just now. It seems that he has indeed discovered a rare genius. Sun Zhongyan looked at the Shen formation with interest. He was very curious about Chu Liwei. She was either not familiar with Shen formations or she was deliberately hiding her abilities. Chu Liwei walked through the forest. At a certain point she suddenly stopped and closed her eyes. She carefully felt the changes in the Shen formation. We're finally here, Chu Liwei murmured and opened his eyes. Si Ting should have reached the eye of the array so she could go too. Firstly, she was not interested and did not intend to reveal her background today. However, their results couldn't be too bad or else they would be called trash in the future. She took a deep breath, turned around and headed forward. When Si Ting arrived at the eye of the array, he realized that there was no one there. He heaved a silent sigh of relief. It seemed that no one was ahead of him. But then he suddenly frowned. Why would he be worried that someone would beat him to it? He had absolute confidence in himself and had never felt like this before. What was wrong with him today? Could it be because of what Chu Liwei said? Si Ting clenched his fists tightly. In fact, he did feel a dangerous aura from Chu Liwei. He did not know where this feeling came from, but his intuition told him that Chu Liwei was definitely not a simple person. Fortunately, he was the first to reach the eye of the formation. As long as he reached this point, the competition was basically over. Si Ting waved his hand and a silver line flew out. It formed a strange pattern in midair. After a while, the silver line shook violently and then disappeared. Si Ting looked in the direction that the line had pointed to and was about to walk in that direction. Just as he moved, he heard footsteps behind him. Almost instinctively he turned his head to look. A slender and tall girl's figure came into view. Chu Liwei looked up and their eyes met. She smiled and shrugged. Chapter 51. Si Ting looked at the young girl in front of him and quickly scanned her body. She was unscathed. She looked as if she had not encountered any trouble at all. However, that was not right. If Chu Liwei had walked in the wrong direction and triggered the Shen formation, she would have encountered some problems. However, she looked as if she had just walked over casually. If she had not encountered any accidents, she should have arrived a long time ago. At the very least, she should have arrived around the same time as him. However, she was one step too late. Si Ting wanted to see something from Chu Liu's face, but there was only calmness in the depths of her bright eyes. He couldn't see anything. It was as if nothing in this world could shake her mind. You are very fast, Si Ting said briefly. Chu Liu spread out her hands. I am still a little slower than you. Si Ting did not say anything else and turned to walk forward. There was no suspense in this competition. The only variable was Chu Luiyue. However, it was obvious that she did not intend to use her abilities, so it would not be too late to investigate in the future. Chu Luiyue did not say anything else and continued walking forward. As she passed by a certain area, she looked at the millstone-like stone under her feet. Who would have thought that this was the core of the Xian formation? This ordinary-looking stone actually contained the most powerful energy in the entire Xian formation. As long as she walked past this place, she would not be far from the exit. Si Ting's figure quickly disappeared, and Chu Luiyue followed closely behind. When Si Ting walked out of the forest without any obstructions, Sun Zhongyan and the other two were already waiting there. He pulled out the flag easily, and at the same time, a firework flew into the sky from the flag. Boom! As the firework bloomed in the sky, it meant that the first place of the Xian Master assessment had been revealed. Si Ting, you have indeed improved a lot. This time you only took less than an hour to come out. Sun Zhongyan praised him. Si Ting looked calm as he cupped his fists and bowed. Thank you for the compliment, Elder Sunday. I still have many shortcomings. You are only 15 years old this year, but you are already a level 3 Xian Master. You have a bright future ahead of you. Another middle-aged man laughed. Hearing this, Si Ting's expression changed slightly. He seemed to want to say something, but in the end he swallowed his words. He turned around and looked at the forest. Sure enough, it didn't take long for a beautiful face to appear before his eyes. It was Chu Luiyue. There wasn't much difference in the time the two of them took to reach the finish line. Sun Zhongyan and the other two began to seriously size up Chu Luiyue. This rumored good-for-nothing girl turned out to be like this. Chu Luiyue walked over and pulled out the second flag. When the firework flew into the sky, the other students who were competing in the back of the mountain were all shocked. The first area of the warrior assessment immediately became noisy. How did the Xian Master assessment progress so quickly? The senior sisters said that it would take several hours. This should be the first place, right? That's still a bit early. Guess who will be the first? Who else could it be? With Si Ting around, no one can get first place, right? At this moment, a deep and powerful voice rang in everyone's ears. First place for the 453rd Xian Master assessment. Si Ting. Once the voice was heard, the crowd exploded. It's really him. According to this efficiency, Si Ting is definitely a stage 3 Xian Master, right? I haven't heard much about him in the past half a year, so I thought he had gone quiet. I didn't expect him to get first place without anyone noticing. Yeah. Chu Xianmin can't compare to his talent at all. How can a warrior be compared to a Xian Master? Some people whispered and kept looking at Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin forced herself to hold it in and pretended that she didn't hear anything, but her nails were already digging deep into her palms. This limelight has been stolen by Si Ting. However, it didn't matter. After all, Si Ting was from the Si family and had nothing to do with her. As long as she could teach Chu Luiyue a lesson today, bang! The second firework flew into the sky again. Everyone was stunned. Is the second place for the Xian Master assessment? There was only a slight delay in the timing? *CK. Who's so powerful to be able to get second place right after Si Ting? A few questions came from the crowd. The voice from before sounded again. Chapter 52. Although Tianlu Academy's assessment was divided into different periods and was conducted in 3 different areas, they would usually announce the top 3. To a certain extent, this was a reward for the outstanding students. At the same time, it could also motivate the other students. It was not strange for Si Ting's name to appear in first place in the Xian Master assessment. However, what right did Chu Luiyue have to take second place? The noisy back mountain instantly fell into dead silence. Chu Xianmin's body stiffened as chills ran down her back. Her entire body seemed to be out of her control. Her mind was blank. Only one sentence kept echoing in her mind. It almost made her brain explode. Chu Luiyue. Second place in the Xian Master assessment. How could it be? How could it be? Being a Xian Master required a lot of talent. Even she did not have the luck to become a Xian Master, let alone that good-for-nothing Chu Luiyue. Soon the crowd started discussing. Chu Luiyue is second place? Is there really no mistake? No matter how I think about it, it doesn't seem right. Didn't they say that Chu Luiyue is a good-for-nothing with an incomplete Yuan Meridian? Could there be a misunderstanding? Even if she passed the assessment, how could she be second place? One had to know that other than Si Ting, there were dozens of outstanding Xian Master talents participating in the assessment. These people had studied in the academy for more than half a year. How could they not even compare to Chu Luiyue? Someone spoke hesitantly. Could it be true? Maybe she really has amazing talent as a Xian master? If that's the case, Teacher Bai Chen's attitude can also be explained. That's impossible. Chu Xianmin screamed almost subconsciously. When the crowd looked over, she realized that she had lost her composure and immediately explained in a panic. I am saying that Sister Yuan Meridian is indeed incomplete. If she had talent as a Xian master, there's no way her family wouldn't know. I don't know how she did it either. In other words, Chu Luiyue's second place was not legitimate. Someone chuckled. Chu Xianmin, you stole the crown prince's favor. Even if something really happened, Chu Luiyue wouldn't tell you, right? This caused the crowd to burst into laughter. The entire imperial city knew about what happened at the crown prince's birthday banquet a few days ago. Chu Xianmin took the initiative to offer herself to the crown prince to gain his favor, which ultimately led to the cancellation of the engagement between Chu Luiyue and the crown prince. With such grievances, how could the two sides still have any sisterly affection? To think that Chu Xianmin looked as if she was thinking for Chu Luiyue just now. Her acting skills were really good. Chu Xianmin's face immediately flushed red, and her entire body felt like it was on fire. Chu Xianmin, are you saying this on purpose because you're afraid that Chu Luiyue will steal your limelight? I didn't. Chu Xianmin immediately denied it, but the mocking gazes around her made her feel uneasy. She gritted her teeth. In the past, everyone had said that the position of the crown prince's consort would belong to none other than her. Each and every one of them had tried to curry favor with her. How could they dare to say such a thing? But now her reputation had been ruined. No matter what, the title of crown princess would never belong to her. These people immediately turned hostile, ridiculing her to the extreme. I just think it's a little strange. After all, the Xian master assessment this time is too fast. Who knows? Chu Xianmin, are you doubting elder son? Questioned Ling Zhu with a frown. Sun Zhongyan was highly respected in the academy. Not to mention these students, even most of the teachers did not dare to be rash. Chu Xianmin shuddered and finally lowered her head. I don't dare. Seeing her like this, Ling Zhu secretly shook his head. He originally thought that Chu Xianmin was smart, but he did not expect her to be so narrow-minded. The semifinals are about to start. Doing your own thing is the most important thing. Chu Xianmin nodded and took a deep breath. Now, she only had the hope of regaining her lost ground if she took first place in the warrior assessment. In another area at the back of the mountain, the 451st batch of students' assessment was in progress. Rong Jin stood there and checked his sword. The few youths behind him looked fervent. Your Highness, it looks like you're going to take first place in the warrior assessment this time. Your Highness should be the strongest in the entire academy now, right? Rong Jin chuckled and looked into the distance. That's nothing, Peng. A firework exploded in midair. Rong Jin took a look and squinted his eyes slightly. A youth beside him laughed. Si Ting already took first place in the Xian Master assessment. It looks like the warrior assessment's first place is out too. Another youth's eyes turned and chuckled. Yeah. The warrior assessment's first place should still be Chu Xianmin, right? Rong Jin paused and his expression softened. She's quite talented. If Chu Xianmin took first place, her reputation would recover a little and he would look better. A low and thick voice sounded. The 453rd batch of Xian Master Assessment students. Second place, Chu Luiyue. Chapter 53. Chu Luiyue? When Rong Jin heard this name during Tianlu Academy's assessment, he almost suspected that he was hallucinating. This is the same name, right? Said a few youths uncertainly when they saw his strange expression. Rong Jin put away his sword and his face was as dark as water. Go and ask what's going on. Yes. One of the youths hurriedly turned around and left. The remaining few people looked at each other in dismay. They were all a little confused. His Highness hated Chu Luiyue to the core. Now that he heard this name, he naturally wouldn't be in a good mood. The few of them instantly quietened down as they were afraid of angering Rong Jin. However, they weren't the only ones who heard this sentence. The other students waiting for the assessment at the side also heard it clearly. Some people started to secretly look at Rong Jin and secretly wondered if this Chu Luiyue was the one who caused a commotion recently. Who is this Chu Luiyue? Is he a dark horse that suddenly appeared among the juniors? I don't know. Anyway, I've never heard of him before. However, it shouldn't be him, right? I suddenly thought of something. Didn't that Chu Luiyue say that he wanted to enter our academy? If I remember correctly, it should be today, right? Sure. Lower your voice. Didn't you see how terrible the crown prince's expression is? Besides, how can that Chu Liwei pass the assessment? I think there must be a mistake. The surrounding whispers reached Rong Jin's ears, and his expression became even darker. Yes, I almost forgot. That Chu Liu's only condition for breaking off the engagement was to enter Tianlu Academy? No, definitely not, Your Highness. A shout broke the silence. It was the young man who had gone to scout for information. He had returned. When Rong Jin saw that person, he took a step forward and quickly asked, "What happened? What's going on over there?" Even Rong Jin himself didn't realize that his voice had a tinge of unconcealable nervousness. Your Highness, the second place for the Xuanmaster assessment is indeed Chu Liwei. The young man gasped for breath. Rong Jin's heart sank, but he still held on to the last bit of hope. There's someone with this name in this batch of students? The young man paused and awkwardly avoided Rong Jin's gaze. Yes, there is someone called Chu Liwei. Rong Jin closed his eyes and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it was the same name. He knew it. How could Chu Liwei be a Xuanmaster? Your Highness? The teenager knew that he had misunderstood. He shrunk his neck and explained in a trembling voice, "This Chu Liwei is that." Rong Jin was dazed. What did you say? The youth had a long face. Chu Liwei was admitted to the academy today. Furthermore, she directly participated in the Mystic Cultivator assessment as a new student and obtained second place. Now, the students and teachers over there were already boiling with excitement. Chapter 54. What could be more laughable than this? During the years of their engagement, she was cowardly and lowly, causing him to lose face. However, the moment the engagement was cancelled, she transformed into a genius that everyone envied. Rong Jin refused to believe it no matter what, but he knew that the academy would never make such a mistake. Then, this meant that Chu Liwei was really a Xuanmaster genius. The crowd was stunned when they heard this, including those who were joking earlier. They were just joking, but who knew that it was true? Some people looked at Rong Jin with complicated gazes. How unlucky must he be to encounter this? The moment the engagement was cancelled, the other person became a highly sought-after genius, and she was even a Xuanmaster. An outstanding Xuanmaster genius was much more precious and popular than a normal warrior genius. If Chu Liwei had won second place with her own abilities, she would have really made a comeback in the future. From now on, countless people would be begging for her favor. However, Rong Jin actually gave up on such a rare Xuanmaster genius fiancé and chose Chu Xianmin. Even though Chu Xianmin was quite talented, she was still a warrior and was naturally inferior to a Xuanmaster. In addition to the things that happened at the banquet, many people felt that she was shameless and would do anything to climb up the social ladder. She did not care about her reputation at all. Comparing the two, it was tragic. Some people looked at each other quietly and discussed softly. If this happened to me, I would regret it to death. That's right. That's a Xuanmaster. Si Ting won first place and she won second place not long after. Doesn't this mean that her talent is about the same as Si Ting's? After all, Si Ting started cultivating from a young age. This Chu Liwei seemed to have been bullied in the past few years, right? Even though I don't know how she suddenly became a Xuanmaster genius, things will be different in the future. Keep your voices down. Can't you see how terrible that person's face is? Hey, who can withstand such a difference? Princely Mansion. Rong Xiu reclined on the couch. The sun shone through the window, and his long eyelashes cast a shadow under his eyelids. His clean and noble face was clear and pure, as if he was carved by the heavens with the purest ice. Only the crimson color of his thin lips added an indescribable charm to him. He was the only color of spring in this world of ice and snow, the most enchanting of all. Footsteps could be heard outside the door. It was Yanqing who walked in. Yanqing bowed and said, "Master, the things you've chosen are ready." Rong Xiu's eyelashes fluttered as he opened his eyes. A glint flashed across his deep eyes. The exam results are out, right? Yes. First young Mistress Chu has passed all 3 examinations and entered Tianlu Academy. Yanqing's tone was calm, but the waves in her heart had not yet subsided. God knows how shocked he was when he received this news. Although he had already guessed that first young Mistress Chu was not a simple person, he did not expect her to be so capable. Also, first young Mistress Chu took part in the midterm exam. I heard that she came in second place for the Xuanmaster exam. Rong Xiu raised his brows. Her flamboyant personality is really a headache. Yan Qing glanced at her master, and the corners of her eyes twitched. Headache. Then why are you smiling? You're not even this happy when you encounter your own problems. Yan Qing, what do you want to say? Rong Xiu glanced at her. Yan Qing immediately straightened her body. What this subordinate wants to say is, Master's vision is really excellent. Rong Xiu's slender fingers tapped on the table. After pondering for a moment, he chuckled softly. Since she's having fun, then let her have fun today. We'll double the gifts that we've prepared. Yan Qing asked hesitantly. Then your share. Si Ting pursed his lips and looked down. Elder Sun is right. It seemed that Elder Sun had also noticed something. This Chu Luiyue had most likely conserved his strength during the assessment. Since the assessment is over, come and take a look at this Xian formation. Elder Sun said as he pointed at the silver Xian formation floating in midair. Si Ting and Chu Luiyue followed his advice and walked over. This Xian formation was personally set up by Sun Zhongyan, and it was extremely intricate and complicated. If they could see it with their own eyes and understand it, they would naturally benefit greatly. After about an hour, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from the forest again. Chu Luiyue looked up and smiled. It was Si Yang. At this moment, his hair was messy, and his clothes were stained with blood. It was obvious that he had suffered a little inside. He was very different from his initial high-spirited self. His gaze swept across the row of flags in front of him and realized that there were only 2 empty spots. In other words, there were only 2 people who had arrived before him. He was third. At this thought, a smile finally appeared on his face. He quickly walked over and pulled out the flag. Although the process was very difficult, it was worth it to get this result. Then he looked up in front of him. In the Xian formation in the forest, he could not hear anything from the outside world, so he did not know who was first and second. When he looked up, he saw a familiar tall figure. It was indeed Si Ting. He turned his gaze and looked to the side. When he saw that beautiful face, he froze on the spot. Congratulations. Chu Luiyue clapped his hands and smiled. Third place. Si Yang's mind was a mess and he instinctively asked, Why are you here? Chu Luiyue blinked. Because I'm second. You? Chapter 56. Si Yang felt like he was about to vomit blood. He was too slow. He was in third place. Such a result was something to be proud of, but Chu Luiyue was mocking him. But he could not refute it. After all, he was in second place. Even if he did not believe it, Chu Luiyue did not have the guts to lie in front of Elder Sun and the others. Thinking about what he said before and comparing the results of the 2 of them, he felt a burning sensation on his face. When did you come out? Si Yang held on to his last hope and struggled to ask. If Chu Luiyue was only a little faster than him, then it did not count. This girl and Si Ting were less than half an hour apart. She was about an hour earlier than you. Sun Zhongyan smiled. Si Yang was a good kid in other aspects, but he was a little too arrogant and self-righteous. Using Chu Luiyue as an excuse, Sun Zhongyan could also teach him a lesson and make him restrain himself. Indeed, after hearing Elder Sun's words, Si Yang's last bit of hope disappeared completely. He lowered his head dejectedly. If there was a crack in the ground, he would have crawled into it immediately. To think that he had provoked Chu Luiyue just now. Now he looked like a joke. Chu Luiyue asked. If you feel that it's a pity that we did not have a real fight today, we can do it another day. Si Yang's heart skipped a beat. He took a closer look at Chu Luiyue. Then, he realized to his surprise that Chu Luiyue did not have any injuries on his body. This assessment had tortured him greatly, but Chu Luiyue did not seem to be affected at all. He gritted his teeth and turned his head away angrily. No need. I admit that you were better than me in today's round. After saying this, he felt that he had lost all his face. He did not want to stay here any longer. Lu Yu is indeed very talented in this area. You will be classmates in the future. It's always good to help each other and interact more. Sun Zhongyan said. Si Ting finally looked away from the Xian formation. This student will remember Elder Sun's advice. Sun Zhongyan nodded. Then the announcement of the third place sounded again. This time it was Si Yang's name. Originally, Si Yang had been looking forward to seeing his name appear in such a manner, but now that it had really happened, he wasn't happy at all. She even felt an inexplicable sense of shame when she thought about being next to Chu Luiyue. The other party had quietly taken second place, so what was his third place? He walked behind Si Ting and did not say a word. Occasionally she could not help but look up at Chu Luiyue. He couldn't understand how Chu Luiyue, who was ridiculed by everyone in the imperial capital, could suddenly become so powerful. When Chu Luiyue looked at him, he quickly looked away and pretended that nothing had happened. Only his ears were getting redder and redder, exposing his guilty conscience and nervousness. After a few times, Chu Luiyue finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. This time not only his ears but Si Yang's face and neck also turned red. He actually didn't want to say much to Chu Luiyue, but he was really too curious. Finally he couldn't help but ask awkwardly, "That you? So many people said that you're a loser. Are you pretending?" Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly. When he said this, the others also looked over. In fact, this was also what they wanted to ask. No. Chu Luiyue shook his head and gave a straightforward answer. Si Yang leaned forward, but Chu Luiyue shut his mouth. It was obvious that he didn't want to explain further. He was a little disappointed, but he also knew that this was someone else's secret, and he had no right to ask. He could only mumble, "I knew it. If you're pretending, why don't you just take first place? I heard that the first place this year can even meet the envoy from the Tianling dynasty." Chapter 57. Her eyes flickered as she concealed the shock in her eyes. Then she looked confused. "The Tianling dynasty? You don't know?" "That's right. Your life in the Chu family was so miserable. It's normal that you don't know about such a powerful existence." Only then did Si Yang feel better. At the very least he knew more about this than Chu Luiyue. As a direct descendant of the Si family, he had only heard of some rumors. However, this was already beyond the reach of ordinary people. Chu Luiyue curled her fingers as if she didn't care about Si Yang's words. She smiled and said, "Why? Is the so-called Tianling dynasty very powerful?" "It's more than powerful. It's an existence that the entire country Yaochen looks up to." Si Yang was excited. Just as he was talking excitedly, Si Ting glanced at him. "Si Yang." Si Yang became listless and coughed. I know. I shouldn't talk about such things." Chu Luiyue was silent for a moment before she asked again, "You said that we can meet their envoy if we get first place in the assessment?" Si Yang glanced at Si Ting carefully. Seeing that he didn't seem to have any objections, he nodded. "Yes. Although we don't have the chance to go to the Tianling dynasty, it's a great opportunity to meet their envoy." As he spoke, he glanced at Chu Luiyue and shook his head. "It's pointless for you to ask these questions. This assessment has already ended. You got second place. Anyway, you don't have the chance anymore." Chu Luiyue looked down. "You seem to be very concerned about this matter?" Si Ting suddenly asked. He clearly saw from the side that Chu Luiyue's entire person seemed to be different after hearing this news. Previously, even when she got second place in the assessment, she was very calm. It was as if she didn't take this matter to heart and was just casually doing it. However, just now, Chu Luiyue seemed to be asking casually. However, when she asked, it meant that she was concerned about this matter. According to Si Yang, this is a rare opportunity. It's fine if I didn't know about this before, but now that I know, I naturally want to see it for myself. Chu Luiyue looked magnanimous, but there was a hint of regret between his brows. What a pity. She was reborn in country Yaochen, which was very far away from the Tianling dynasty. She originally thought that it would take many years for her to go back and take revenge on those people. However, he had never expected that the people of the Tianling dynasty would come by themselves. Although she didn't know who the so-called envoy was, she could at least find out some information. However, the Tianling dynasty rarely sent envoys to their subordinate countries. At the very least, during the years that she was in power, they had never sent anyone to country Yaochen. What was going on this time? Chu Luiyue withdrew his gaze and once again looked at the profound formation in front of him, as if he was still concentrating on studying it. But in reality, her mind was still on the matter of the envoy of the Tianling dynasty. If she missed this opportunity, she didn't know how long she would have to wait to find out more about the Tianling dynasty. Country Yaochen was just an inconspicuous country among the dozens of subordinate countries. The probability of this happening was extremely low. Of course, her current ability wasn't enough to support her revenge, but if she could find some clues, it might not be a bad thing. It had been a full year since the day she died. She wanted to know what happened after that. Chu Luiyue felt as if there were two little people fighting in her heart, making her feel very conflicted. "Big brother, if you see the envoy, you must tell me what he or she is like." Si Yang moved closer to Si Ting with a yearning and envious look. "I heard that everyone there is a top-notch expert. It would be great if I have the chance to go there and take a look in this lifetime." Si Ting smiled. "Work hard. There will be a chance." Si Yang's eyes lit up and he nodded vigorously. But soon his face fell. Sigh, but I don't know how long I have to wait. This opportunity only came once in a few decades in country Yaoqian. It was very rare. Elder son, I would like to ask you a question. Chu Luiyue suddenly asked. Sun Zhongyan nodded. Go ahead. Does the academy have a rule that a person can only participate in one assessment? Sun Zhongyan shook his head. There isn't. However, there wasn't such an example before. This is because although the assessment is divided into martial warrior, xianmaster, and celestial physician, every student has their own specialization. Basically, they will only participate in one of their specialties. He looked at the girl in front of him and suddenly vaguely guessed something. You want to participate in another assessment? Chu Luiyue pursed her lips and smiled, her eyes shining brightly. Elder son is wise. How can this be? You have already participated in the xianmaster assessment. Another teacher blurted out to express his objection. Chu Luiyue looked calm. Teacher, you seem to have forgotten that I just entered the academy today. I haven't chosen any subject yet. Therefore, I am qualified to participate in other assessments, right? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone choked. That's right. Chu Luiyue was admitted to the academy by passing all 3 examinations. In that case, before she decided on what she wanted to study, she could really take part in any examination. But your talent as a xianmaster is the best, and you've already obtained 2nd place. Even if you participate in other assessments, you won't be able to obtain better results. Another teacher couldn't help but say. Chu Luiyue was unmoved. We'll only know after we try. You're crazy. Si Yang was stunned for a while before realizing what Chu Luiyue was planning to do. He immediately rushed to her side and shouted anxiously, I admit that you're very talented as a xianmaster, but this doesn't mean that you can have any advantages in the martial warrior and celestial physician assessments. Aren't you courting death if you go like this? 2nd place is already very good. Why are you so stubborn? If you get beaten half to death, let's see what face you'll have when you come back. Chu Luiyue looked at him in surprise. This fellow seemed to be worried that she would be bullied? Si Yang's face and neck flushed red. He felt a little guilty under her gaze and raised his voice. Don't let your imagination run wild. Now that everyone knows that you're 2nd place as a xianmaster, you're already considered one of us. If you go and embarrass yourself, we'll also be mocked by others. The heavenly doctors didn't say anything, but the martial artists and mystic cultivators had actually been secretly competing with each other. Si Yang had already acknowledged Chu Luiyue as one of them, but seeing her like this, he naturally refused to agree. Chu Luiyue patted his shoulder. Chapter 58. It's finally the finals. Minmin, 1st place is yours, right? Yes. I heard that you broke through again? Show us what you're capable of. The warrior assessment area was more than halfway through and had reached the finals. This group had the most students, about 300 of them. However, only 2 of them were able to pass through all the stages and make it to the finals. Chu Xianmin was one of them. Hearing the praises of the people around her, Chu Xianmin's mood finally improved. She said humbly, I'm sorry. She said humbly, I'm not as powerful as you say. Besides, Gu Mingfeng is very powerful too. I might not be first in this assessment. Gu Mingfeng was the other person who entered the finals. He was also from the Gu family, one of the 4 big families. He's just a bastard. How can he compare to you, Minmin? Said a girl with a snort. If it weren't for his talent, why would the Gu family care about him? In country Yaoqian, the hierarchy between the 1st wife and the 2nd wife was very important. Chu Xianmin glanced at Gu Mingfeng from afar and saw that he was looking in her direction. He was actually very good looking. His facial features were exquisite as if they were carved by the heavens. However, his amber eyes seemed to have a hint of darkness, which made people shudder. A look of disapproval immediately appeared on her face as she tugged at her. Strength is everything. Yen, don't say such things in the future. The girl called Yen, did not notice that Gu Mingfeng was looking in her direction and stuck out her tongue. So what? Does he dare to find trouble with the Lu family's 2nd missy? Although the Lu family could not be compared to the Gu family, she was still the 1st wife's daughter. Chu Xianmin looked up at Gu Mingfeng but saw that he looked away as if he did not hear her. Of course, Gu Mingfeng heard her. She wanted to do him a favor, but he did not seem to take the bait so easily. Chu Xianmin actually did not like bastards with no status and decided not to think about them. Lu Fian pulled her sleeve and whispered, Minmin, Chu Xianmin, you're the 2nd runner-up in the assessment. Minmin Chu Luiyue took second place in the Shen Master assessment. No matter what, you can't be suppressed by her. You must take first place. Chu Xinmin's face stiffened. She was annoyed at Lu Fian for being so tactless and touching her sore spot. She nodded reluctantly. I know what to do. At this moment, a firework exploded in the distant sky. First place for the 451st Batch Warrior Assessment. Rong Jin. It's the Crown Prince. The first place is indeed him. Lu Fian's eyes brightened, and she hurriedly shook Chu Xinmin's arm. Min, His Highness the Crown Prince is indeed as powerful as the rumors say. I heard that the competition in that year was very intense. He was really amazing to be able to take first place. Chu Xianmin smiled nonchalantly. This is a piece of cake for Brother Jin. You can't even understand them, so what can you do there? I think you probably want to see Chu Luiyue, right? Someone at the side mocked. The person who was exposed simply admitted it. Aren't you curious? Previously, everyone said that she was a good-for-nothing, but in the blink of an eye, she became a mystic cultivator. Could it be that the entire Chu clan was blind? Why didn't they discover such a genius? Old Yu, let's not get involved in the matters of the aristocratic families. At this point, everyone looked at each other and did not say anything else. They quickly changed the topic to Chu Xianmin and Gu Mingfeng's match. 5 minutes had passed, but the two of them were still locked in a fierce battle. Chu Xianmin gradually became anxious. This was because she realized that Gu Mingfeng was stronger than she had imagined. If this continued, the first place would be in jeopardy. She quickly glanced at Rong Jin from the corner of her eye and saw that his face was indeed gloomy. Chu Xianmin secretly gritted her teeth. This can't go on. I have to end this quickly. Chapter 60. Gu Mingfeng raised his sword at the same time. Slash. The two swords met and made a piercing sound. Sparks flew. Chu Xinmin's heart sank. The strength in Gu Mingfeng's sword is stronger than mine. He actually hid his ability just now. Thinking of this, Chu Xianmin panicked even more. No. I can't lose to Gu Mingfeng. I must take first place today. Gu Mingfeng exerted more strength in his wrist, and the long sword pressed down on Chu Xianmin. Chu Xinmin's entire arm was numb, and she could barely hold the sword in her hand. Suddenly she had an idea and let go. She lowered her body and dodged to the side. Gu Mingfeng thought that she would try again, but he did not expect her to abandon her sword and lose her footing. The long sword in his hand, which was filled with force, missed. It even caused his body to sway. At this moment, Chu Xianmin had already circled to his side. A cold light flashed in her hand. It was a sharp dagger. By the time Gu Mingfeng reacted, the dagger was already in front of him. It was only half an arm's length away from his neck. He subconsciously wanted to turn his long sword around, but it was too late. In a hurry, Gu Mingfeng could only retreat quickly. However, he had already lost his footing just now, and now he had lost his center of gravity. He looked at Chu Xianmin with a cold gaze. This Chu Xianmin dared to trick me. The anger in his heart burned. Just as he was about to move, he suddenly thought of something. His expression changed slightly and he hesitated for a moment. No, I can't do it now. In this moment, Chu Xianmin was already in front of him. Gu Mingfeng secretly reduced half of the strength in his leg and kicked Chu Xinmin's wrist. Bang! He actually kicked the dagger in Chu Xinmin's hand away. However, Chu Xianmin was already prepared and immediately lifted her leg. She kicked Gu Mingfeng's heart. With a muffled sound, Gu Mingfeng's body flew backward. Then he landed heavily on the ground. He left a long mark on the ground. The crowd outside the arena quietened down. An examiner raised his voice and said, Gu Mingfeng has left the arena. Chu Xianmin wins this round. Upon hearing this, the rock in Chu Xinmin's heart finally fell to the ground. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Did Chu Xianmin do that on purpose just now? I think so too. Their strength is about the same. How could she let go of her sword so easily? If not for that, Gu Mingfeng wouldn't have failed. Are you jealous that Chu Xianmin got first place? It's not like everyone doesn't know about her talent and strength. Was there a need to resort to such means? The teachers didn't say anything. But it did look a little strange just now, one of the teachers laughed. A competition is a competition. Sometimes it's not bad to be a little smarter. There were other teachers who didn't agree, but they didn't say anything in the end. They could clearly see that Chu Xianmin was skirting the boundaries. Even though it wasn't very good, it wasn't a big mistake. When they really fought in the future, the situation they would encounter would be much more dangerous than this. Moreover, Gu Mingfeng seemed to have no intention of competing for first place. Hearing the teacher say so, the doubtful voices in the crowd gradually disappeared. Chu Xianmin walked to Rong Jin and gently exhaled. Luckily, I didn't disappoint Brother Jin. Rong Jin smiled and said, your strength has improved a lot compared to before. It seems like you can break through to become a stage 4 warrior soon. He didn't care about the process. What he wanted was the result. I promised you before that I would give you a reward as long as you came in first. Rong Jin was in a good mood now, and he found Chu Xianmin much more pleasing to the eye. She couldn't be his wife, but she could be his concubine. First place for the 453rd batch of students' warrior assessment. Chu, wait. Before the examiner could finish his announcement, he was suddenly interrupted by a clear female voice. Everyone looked over at the same time and they were all shocked. Chu Luiyue, why are you here? The examiner was a little angry at being interrupted, but his voice became much gentler when he saw that it was Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue smiled and said, my name is Chu Luiyue. Chapter 61. What? You want to take part in the warrior assessment? The teacher was shocked. Didn't you already take part in the Xianmaster assessment? Chu Luiyue explained, today it's my first day. I haven't chosen a subject yet, so I should be able to take part in the warrior assessment, right? The teacher was stunned. That's not wrong, but there has never been a precedent like this before. Normally, even if a person had many talents, they would only choose one to focus on cultivation. For example, people who could become Xian masters would usually put a lot of effort into Xian formations and not warrior cultivation. A person's energy was limited. If one wanted to do both, they would not be able to do both well. Besides, Chu Luiyue's Yuan meridian was blocked, so becoming a Xian master was the best choice. Why did she want to take part in the warrior assessment? The academy doesn't stipulate that a person can only take part in one assessment. Since this girl wants to try, let's give her a chance. The teacher raised his head to take a look and was immediately shocked. He bowed respectfully. Greetings, Elder Sunday. Chu Luiyue also looked back and nodded gratefully. She originally wanted to do it herself, but she did not expect Sun Zhongyan to follow her. It seemed like he wanted to support her. Since Sun Zhongyan had spoken, it was not appropriate for others to stop her. The teacher hesitated for a moment and said awkwardly, it's not impossible if you want to take part in the assessment. However, the assessment here is over. Even the finals are over. If you want to take part in the assessment, you need an opponent to determine the winner. However, there isn't a suitable candidate now. Chu Luiyue lifted her chin. Isn't there a suitable candidate? Chu Xianmin? The teacher said in disbelief. You want to fight with the top warrior? Are you kidding me? Is Chu Luiyue stupid? She lacked a Yuan meridian and could not even be considered a first-stage warrior's opponent. How could she compare to Chu Xianmin, who was about to break through to become a stage 4 warrior? Once she went on stage, only failure awaited her. Chu Luiyue paused and smiled. That's right. Because I'm here to take first place. After the finals ended, the warrior assessment area had already calmed down. Many people were already preparing to leave. However, they did not expect Chu Luiyue to participate in the assessment and even challenged Chu Xianmin. The originally quiet crowd immediately boiled over. Are you serious? Chu Luiyue wants to fight Chu Xianmin? Ha, did I hear wrongly just now? She said she wants to take first place. What the? This Chu Luiyue is usually quiet, but once he does, he will amaze the world. Does she think that she hasn't been in the limelight enough today? The sisters are fighting and the crown prince is right next to them. How lively. If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people watching, Chu Xianmin would have laughed out loud. Chu Luiyue actually wanted to compete with her for first place? If it was a mystic cultivator competition, she couldn't do anything to her, but if it was a martial artist competition, Chu Luiyue was simply looking for a beating. Sister, do you really want to challenge me? Chu Xianmin was filled with jealousy and hatred, but she did not know how to vent it. Who would have thought that Chu Luiyue would come knocking on her door? Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows. You're not going to accept? I'll follow your orders, sister. But don't worry, sister. I'll be careful and won't hurt you. As she spoke, she smiled at the teacher. Teacher, please allow me to participate in this competition. Since the two of them had agreed, the bystanders naturally did not stop them. Sure. Then we'll have another match. However, I'll repeat myself. Don't go too far. Chu Luiyue did not comment. Rong Jin looked at the girl not far away with a complicated expression. The once lowly girl had now become a Xian master genius? Did she purposely come here to prove something in front of me? However, after waiting for a while, Chu Luiyue did not even look in his direction. It was as if she did not care about him at all. An inexplicable anger arose in Rong Jin's heart. He turned and looked at Chu Xianmin. Chapter 62. Chu Xianmin was flattered. The crown prince liked her, but he rarely spoke to her in such a gentle tone. She could even hear a hint of affection in his voice, especially in front of so many people. Didn't this mean that the crown prince wanted to marry her as soon as possible? Chu Xianmin's heart was filled with joy and pride, and her smile became even sweeter. Then I'll thank you first, brother Jin. Rong Jin nodded, but his peripheral vision quickly swept toward Chu Luiyue, who was not far away. However, he saw that she had already walked toward the arena in the middle as if she did not care about what was happening here and did not care about what he was doing. Rong Jin pursed his lips tightly, and the inexplicable anger in his heart burned even more fiercely. Didn't Chu Luiyue previously say that she had a crush on him? Why did she have such an attitude now? In the past he only had disgust for her. The marriage agreement between the two of them was like a huge mountain pressing down on his heart, making him extremely angry. However, now that the marriage agreement was broken and she did not pester him or even look at him, he felt that something was amiss and a little uncomfortable. He did not know why he had such a feeling, but it could not dissipate and continued to linger in his heart. Rong Jin quickly retracted his gaze and looked at Chu Xianmin in front of him. He suddenly felt that it was a little boring. Chu Xianmin did not notice Rong Jin's abnormality at all as she turned and walked to the arena. The two of them faced each other from afar. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Sister, I haven't congratulated you. I didn't expect you to be so talented as a Xian master. If the family knew, they would be very happy. Chu Xianmin had a smile on her face as if she was truly happy for her. The crowd looked at each other with suspicion in their eyes. What did this mean? How could the Chu family not know that Chu Luiyue was a Xian master? Then, how did she start learning to be a Xian master? How did she win second place among so many outstanding students? Don't worry. They will know about this very soon. I don't know if they'll be happy, but you don't seem to be third sister. Chu Luiyue's words were very direct. She had no intention of beating around the bush and pretending to be close sisters. Chu Xianmin's face was a little embarrassed. Elder sister, you're treating me like an outsider. It's a good thing for the entire Chu family that you can become a mystic cultivator, so how can I not be happy? The more talented and powerful you are, the happier your sister will be. I'll have to trouble elder sister to give me some pointers in this warrior assessment. Snickers came from the crowd. Chu Luiyue has a damaged yuan meridian and can't even be considered a martial artist. He will definitely lose this match. How can he have the ability to teach Chu Xianmin? Ah. Looks like the two sisters have completely fallen out with each other. The corners of Chu Luiyue's lips curved up slightly. Since third sister says so, then I won't be polite. Before she finished speaking, her figure suddenly disappeared. Chu Xianmin was stunned and her heart skipped a beat. How can Chu Luiyue be so fast? A piercingly cold and dangerous aura suddenly attacked him from behind. Chu Xianmin subconsciously turned around and drew her sword. A red figure flashed before his eyes. Chu Xianmin quickly swung her sword forward and viciously stabbed forward. The sharp sword instantly pierced through the person's chest in front of her. Before Chu Xianmin could rejoice, she saw that not only was the figure not injured, but it also slowly disappeared. She immediately felt that something was amiss. This was not Chu Luiyue at all, it was only her afterimage. Your reaction is too slow. A cold voice was heard. Chu Xianmin looked up and saw Chu Luiyue standing 3 steps away, looking at her indifferently. Her gaze was as if she was looking at an ant. Chu Xianmin felt an inexplicable sense of inferiority when she was looked at like this. What happened just now? The spectators at the side did not expect Chu Xianmin to miss and looked at each other. A few teachers' expressions changed slightly. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. How can Chu Luiyue be so fast? It looks like she's not weaker than a stage 3 warrior. She's not even a warrior. How can she have such strength? At this moment, Bai Qin could not help but raise his eyebrows proudly. Think about it. What's so strange about little Lu Yu being able to pass the warrior exam? The teachers were stunned when they heard this. Yes, Chu Luiyue passed all 3 exams. This proves that her strength can reach the level of a stage 3 warrior. Bai Qin felt relieved when he saw their expressions. Do you think that I secretly went easy on little Luyu to get into our academy? The teachers were silent for a moment and shook their heads. Bai Chen was very straightforward and magnanimous. He would never do such a thing. Let me tell you. The best part is yet to come. This group of people is not flexible. They will regret it when they see the girl's talent. No. It shouldn't be like this. Chu Xianmin gritted her teeth. Chu Luiyue is just a good-for-nothing, but I'm about to break through and become a stage 4 warrior. How is it possible that I'm not Chu Luiyue's match? What happened just now was just a moment of carelessness. Chu Xianmin did not say a word as she circulated the force in her body and injected it into her longsword. Buzz. The sharp edge of the sword began to tremble, bringing with it a frightening sword cry. Go. Chu Xianmin tipped her toes and quickly attacked Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue looked up. The sharp sword aura came straight at her. Her hair flew up with the wind. This time Chu Luiyue can't avoid it, some people in the crowd discussed softly. However, the next second the crowd was shocked to see that Chu Luiyue did not retreat. Instead she advanced. She took a step forward and planned to face the attack head-on. The key was that she did not have any weapons on her. She wanted to fight Chu Xianmin barehanded? Wouldn't he lose for sure? The long sword was only half an arm away from Chu Luiyue's neck. Chu Xianmin looked at the face that was getting closer and closer, and a sinister thought suddenly surfaced in her heart. This face is really becoming more and more beautiful. If I can destroy it, I'll see how I can show off in the future. Thinking of this, she turned her wrist slightly, and the tip of the sword moved away by an inch, stabbing toward Chu Luiyue's face. Murderous intent flashed across Chu Luiyue's eyes. Then she bent her left leg slightly and her right leg flew up and kicked toward Chu Xianmin. Bang! She actually kicked Chu Xianmin's wrist. A sharp pain came and Chu Xianmin cried out in pain. Before she could react, Chu Luiyue had already closed in on her quickly. She flipped her body and sent her left leg flying. This time she directly kicked Chu Xianmin's face. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.